Hello and welcome to dual stream between Trial TV Live and Joe Schmoe. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Oh, hold on a sec. Oh, got too many windows open. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are recapping day 4 of Arizona versus Lori Daybell. Thank you so much for joining us. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Outstanding. Hello, everybody. With my virtual background, isn't that's like the Back to the Future, like when he's up on the stage type of thing. Remember that?
Right. Yeah, he's like fading out.
Yeah.
As the picture, right? Is the picture
Right.
He's fading out, the picture's fading out. that song that he plays, the Johnny Be Good and all that, that's when I was first really getting into guitar, and I was like, oh, I want to play like that.
Right. Yeah.
I loved the tone. I loved his tone. I loved everything about that. So welcome in everybody. Let's see who is with us in chat. I know we're dual streaming, so do we have straddlers? We've got Andrielle saying hello. She was she thought she was first, but I beat you. I beat you by like 2 seconds. Just a little bit. Sure Life is with us. Curveal's here. Brett is with us. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Trial Junkies United. Always great to see you. Iowa Backyard is straddling. She's in your stream as well.
Nice.
Or he, whatever the case may be. I'm not sure. Hawkeyes. Wow, we have Hawkeyes and Iowa. Big Ten representing.
Absolutely.
We got Ohio. We got Indiana. We got Iowa. Let's see who else is with us while we let people get their seat. Grab your popcorn. Nanar, thanking Aaron for the thumbnail. Forrest Nelson, great to see you as always. One of Joe's fantastic mods. Who's this guy? Who's this Joe Schmoe? Who let him in? Susan B. Womack, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Golden Girl, Sherry K. Ruby, it's always great to see you. Widespread Panic, yes, thank you for joining us. Rachie, awesome. And Tamara, good to see you guys. Eliza, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Deb H, always great to see you. The Journey to Justice. Who did you meet today? Who was it? Seeking Justice? No, Justice. Who was? Is that for later down the road?
No, you can go.
No, who was it? I forget now.
It was Justice.
It was Justice. Just straight up Justice?
Yep.
Just straight up Justice. Catherine saying hello. Law Nerd. Awesome. Thank you. Big Jam Quilter. Great. From Beaumont, California. Fantastic. Madeline PTDPT. Squeegee on my TV. Joe on my phone. That's the way to do it. That's what we like.
There you go.
Heather saying hello. Long day. Glad this trial is winding down. Absolutely. And Pamela. Thank you guys for joining us. All right. For those that are coming in, if you have questions for Joe, and I know you do a QQQ or whatever it is, just alert us so we can star them and we will get back to them down the road. And first off, Stephanie, she's a new YouTube member. So thank you for that, Stephanie.
Nice.
All right. So, Joe, a day 4. Arizona versus Lori Daybell, the chosen one, Esquire. What can you tell us about today?
She did some esquiring today, or she tried to, unsuccessfully again.
Yep.
There was a lot lighter crowd for the morning session today, and that's probably due to the fact that like 10 people or so got turned away yesterday. So that might be discouraging. You come all the way to downtown Phoenix and go up and they're like, oh, sorry, we're full.
Yeah.
But there are the dedicated few that are there like at an early hour, and I mean early hour. And they've gotten to know each other. We've gotten to know each other really well. And it's really cool because, just being there early and knowing that we sit around and just talk. I don't just sit around and talk. I have work to do while I'm there early, but they sit around and talk. They talk about the case. They talk about other things. Where are you from? I mean, it's become a community, and it's pretty cool. Positive things can come out of negative.
Absolutely. I do love that about trials where you meet people from different walks of life, possibly different parts of the country, even the world, depending on what it is, where you are. And it's that shared experience that I think tends to bring people together. And in this case, like you said, a very, well, thankfully, Brandon is still with us, but the overall arching thing is Lori is just an evil person. She leaves a wake of death in her path, but something positive does come out, like you just said, in the sense of camaraderie is built. You know, you're making lasting friendships, and I think that's great. I think that's great.
Yeah, and Tylee and JJ, we can never bring them back, and Charles and Tammy, we can never bring them back, but we can honor their memories and their lives and try and make other people's lives better in the process.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. So this was an intense day. I was telling Chad at the end, this is day 4, and Trina K has gotten through 17 witnesses, and in the Charles Vallow trial, it was 7 days. She made it through 19 witnesses. So she's, and I'm not going to give it away, but she, according to the witness list, 22. So she still has technically, or on her witness list, she still has 5 witnesses to go, and 3 more days if you base it off of the 7 days of the other one. So she's clearly ahead of schedule, only comparing it to Charles.
Right.
Charles.
So you don't want me to give it away?
Oh, that's up to you. Yeah, no, it's up to you.
Well, I think I heard her say at the end of the hearing, or at the end of the proceedings today, that Nick Balance is her last one.
She did.
Pretty sure.
She did. Yep. Oh, yep. I can confirm that without a doubt.
So he's gonna last a half a day at the most. Probably more like 2 to 3 hours, depending on how much cross-exam there is from Lori. If she cross-examines him as much as she did Detective/Lieutenant Hermosillo, it's going to be a short day and it's going to lead right to closing arguments and maybe jury instructions.
So much so that Trina K, the very last question she asks was, will we go straight into closing? And Judge Bresky said that would be my intent. So
yep.
You and I talked. Yeah, you and I talked about this last week. Thursday, I think, was our first. Was day 1. You know, everybody was already at that point. December. Listen to me. For Friday the 13th. Next Friday. Oh, sorry, this Friday. Let me get my act together here. This Friday the 13th would be closings, and Nate was talking about it. You know, a while ago. You've been talking on your show. I've been talking about it on my show, and here we are.
Yeah. I predicted that we would have a verdict by Friday the 13th, because we cannot all stick around for an extra 10 days until the 23rd to come back.
No, they're going to get through jury instructions and most likely closing, because he's not going to split it up, right? Like he's not. Well, their closing is probably only going to be like a half hour because openings were not that long.
Yeah, her Trina K's could be anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes, and Lori's is going to be her usual 15. And
yeah, it was 27 for Trina. For State was 27 minutes opening, and then Lori's was 12 minutes. So even if you doubled that, it's still less than an hour and less than a half an hour. So chances are we will get to verdict watch deliberation tomorrow. Maybe they'll only do it for half an hour just to choose a 4-person, but it's pretty strong possibility they could even go into verdict watch tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely possible. So we'll start at 10:15, and I would expect that Trina K probably will have most of her direct done by lunchtime. So say she has 15 minutes or even a half an hour of direct left after lunch. So that's 1:15 to 1:45. And then say Lori has a half an hour of cross, 2:15, opening statements right there. You know, we'll do the state's opening statement. We may take an afternoon break. So we may not get to jury instructions tomorrow. We may or may not. I have no idea how long her direct of Nick Balance, FBI agent Nick Balance, will be. I have no way to predict that, because some of these law enforcement officials, it's literally like 15 minutes. And then so Detective Hermosillo today covered a lot of the Google warrant searches, but he didn't cover the cell phone location results. So that's actually probably going to take a while.
Well, it's all going to be about Alex and Lori, possibly Chad. Would Chad be? Do we care about his location? Maybe.
No,
Mostly
probably not.
Alex. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
Alex. His traveling all over.
His burner phone, especially. It's going to be
Yeah.
about his burner phone. I'm pretty sure she said in opening that his burner phone was pinged off of cell towers in the area of Melani Boudreaux's house on the evening of October 1st. So it sounds like he came down and spent the night at her house, got up the next morning and went and did the deed, and then immediately took off back for Idaho Falls / Rexburg.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we heard all about that. His searches, and she talked about that in opening, like you kind of just talked about, where on his way home he was Googling, Holbrook, and then Moab, and then what was there was a couple others.
Right.
Fillmore, Utah, and then ultimately Idaho Falls. So he was, I think she said in the opening, he was like finding his way on the back roads. Like he didn't take the major roads; he was finding his way on the back roads. So
yeah, kind of. Moab is kind of on a lot of major roads, but
yeah,
that's nitpicking. That's just being nitpicky. It wasn't the main route that you would take, which is to the, like on the westerly side, it was more of the easterly route.
Okay. All right. I did take a lot of screenshots today, so if we want to pull up anything, I did that. I got specifically what we're talking about right now, the screenshot of his route home. Got pictures. Yeah. So, all right.
That was impactful.
That was good.
So we start off. Yeah, we start off with Lori proceeding with her cross exam of Detective Pillar. She did quite a bit yesterday. She did almost as much today, I think. She wants to get into his interview with Brandon in the car because she's going to start throwing Melani under the bus. Like Melani is her third party suspect in this, and she's trying to paint her as a third party suspect quite unsuccessfully without actually introducing third party suspect, because Trina K said a day or so ago, if she's going to enter third party suspect defense, then this is going to change everything. I've got to get new witnesses and everything else. And Lori says, no, I'm not doing that. But she's kind of trying to do it without doing it. So, so Brant,
I was just going to say, Melanie should be feeling those tire tracks, because Lori's been throwing her under that bus the whole trial, especially today.
Yeah. Especially today. I mean, that's where she started out.
Yeah.
So that was the interview. Apparently they called Melani, or Brandon called Melani 3 times, no answer. He left her 1 voicemail. So then Detective Pillar called her also and left another voicemail, which she responded to, came into the police station for an interview the next day that lasted about an hour. Lori wanted to enter in something in that. She said, so did Melani tell you? Trina K objected immediately. That's hearsay, which is hearsay. Can't tell. There's no foundation to talk about something that Melani told Detective Pillar in that interview. So she didn't get in what she wanted out of that. And then we find out that on October 14th, Melani reached back out to Detective Pillar for quote unquote custodial issues. And what that was Brandon had taken the kids and he had gone into hiding.
Yeah.
and so she reached out to Detective Pillar and it's like, he has my kids and I don't know where he is and I won't bring him back. What can I do? And Detective Pillar's like, here's a good family attorney. Go talk to an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I can't give you legal advice. Go talk to an attorney.
Right.
Something about the VIN number. How did you find out that the Jeep was gray? He got it through Chandler PD. Did you do a search for a green or a dark blue Jeep with a Texas plate? Are you kidding me? You realize how many hits there would be on that?
Yeah, ridiculous.
There'd be like literally thousands.
Right.
Hold on, my computer says we need to restart. We have an update for you. I'm like, no.
Not right now.
No. But speaking of that, in the afternoon session, so I went to lunch. I had another chicken Caesar salad wrap, and went out and did my live. And then I came back upstairs and went in, we went and sat down for the afternoon session, and I opened up my computer and it hadn't been charging over lunch. I had it plugged in, but you know how there's like the box in the middle of your laptop power cords, and it's a 2-piece. So you have that three-prong thing you have to like shove into there. It wasn't all the way in. So it didn't charge up. So my laptop ran out of juice like a half an hour before the end of court. So I had a backup though. I had my backup laptop. I actually bring 2 laptops into court.
Smart.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, smart.
Anyway, and then she gets into the relationship between Brandon and Detective Pillar. How much communication did he have? We had a lot, texts, calls, emails. And she has a particular email exchange that she wants to introduce, that she's tried to introduce unsuccessfully before. So Trina K is just sitting back there, just like waiting to pounce. I can sense the tension. Like she's a kitty cat back there. Like, I see my mouse. I see my mouse. Just let it peek its nose out of the hole just a little bit more.
Right.
So Ms. K objects to that finally, and then Lori goes in to ask him about the content of the email, and Ms. K asks for a sidebar. So I think the judge gives her a specific way to word it. So she asks about the financial information and documents that Brandon provided to Detective Pillar about Melani and about how she would benefit from his demise, basically. There's a little bit of confusion that I have about where that document came from, but I think it was an attachment to an email. So Brandon wrote up some type of a Word document and he attached it to an email, and that's what she wants to show him. But there's like no identifying marks on that attachment. So he says, I really don't know where this document came from. And I can say some of the things on there look kind of familiar, but I can't testify as to its veracity, like its authenticity. And then she seems to be getting in evidence of Melani's theories about who may have been responsible for the shooting. So apparently Melani gave Detective Pillar some of those theories, but Lori can't get any of that in. So she's banging her head against the wall, like nothing is sticking. And then, so Ms. K objects again, and I have a note that the jury is getting a little more restless with this second sidebar. They go to another sidebar, and the jury is like fidgeting a little bit more. Like the very first sidebar we had, they were actually very baseline. They like, sat there in their seats pretty much the same way. Juror number 6 watches the parties in the sidebar. He watches Ms. K, he watches Lori, he watches the judge. Like his eyes go back and forth like he's watching a TV show, which is kind of cool because he's paying attention, but he's also seeing subtle things that could influence a jury that you don't necessarily need in a sidebar.
Right.
So that somebody made that point. Was that you that made that point, that if these people, if Lori and Ms. K and the judge are sitting at their desks where the jury can see them making their arguments, then the jury can read their facial expressions and maybe make a judgment off of that, like how things are going. And yeah, it's interesting having those remote sidebars as opposed to a sidebar at the bench.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you can see at times on the sidebars, Lori's, she's waving her she's animated, versus if they're either in chambers or to the side and they're whispering, and you can't see. That's exactly right. You wouldn't be able to see their facial expressions, and are they annoyed? Are they upset? Are they happy? Whatever it may be.
Yeah, I kind of feel like after like the third or fourth sidebar, I think they were getting pretty annoyed with the sidebar. I kind of got that feeling from them.
Yeah.
So this sidebar results in Lori's defeat. She doesn't win her sidebar, so she has to move on to another topic. We're not talking about Melani anymore. Now we're talking about the Tesla. What happened to the glass? It was thrown away. Was there a bolt hole in the glass? Well, there was an impact point. And did you put 2 gloves on and take the glass to Gilbert PD for examination and preservation? No. So I thought this was a good point. And somebody in my lunch live disagreed with me. I made this point on my lunch live, and they're like, no, I don't think they could have preserved it. maybe not exactly how it fell on the ground, but shouldn't they have at least attempted to preserve it? And we'll find out later on redirect, where Trina tries to rehabilitate this question and answer, where she says, so are you able to effectively determine, or say, could you say after 5 years of being in storage that glass would have been the same as it was the day that it was collected? And of course the answer is no. Right. But we know that evidence deteriorates in storage, but not even making the attempt to store it and preserve it, I think, is an issue for me as a sideline juror. Like, just preserve it. I mean, you have an evidence room, you have a storage room. Just do your best to preserve it in the condition that it was on the driveway. And, if it deteriorates, so be it. But at least it's evidence of a crime. Preserve it for future use.
I don't think it's going to deteriorate per se because it's glass and metal. I think if anything, it would just fall apart even further. And isn't that where Trina was going with? Like, it's shattered glass. And if you pick it up, I guess you could put it on some kind of wood, right? You could put it on wood and then transport that way, I suppose. But even that, I would think it would just, I guess deteriorating mean, I guess it would kind of deteriorate.
But the window had already shattered. So the part that was held together pretty firmly by that tinting. So even if you lose a few pieces, even if you lose 10% of it, you're still preserving 90% of it, but they preserved 0% of it. They threw it away.
Right.
Evidence from a crime scene, they just threw away.
Yeah, that's not right. Yeah, they should have at least kept it on some level, even if it was just in a bag. Here's just a bunch of glass.
And even if five years later, you finally are able to prosecute this lady, and you pull it out of evidence and it's deteriorated somewhat and it's fallen apart somewhat, and now you only have 60% of it, then you can say that on the stand. We preserved it in this condition and now it's in this condition, and we had no way to keep it from deteriorating or falling apart like this, but we made the attempt. We made the attempt to preserve it. So the conclusions that her experts, if she had experts, which she doesn't, if she had experts and if they came to conclusions, then there would be uncertainty associated with their conclusions because of the deterioration. So just mention that.
Right.
You say that in court.
Absolutely. So that's one thing. We'll remember that. We'll come back to that because there was another point we'll get to. There was another point that I thought she thought she had a couple mic drop moments. I thought not a mic drop moment, but I think she did kind of have a little gotcha moment.
So I have this in mind. Is it not in your protocols to preserve evidence? It is in our protocols, but I made the decision not to in this case. How would my ballistics expert be able to test the door if it's not preserved? He says, would you be able to test the Tesla door in this case now? No, you would not. Tesla glass fragments, not tested by Gilbert PD. Bullet fragments, we didn't test them because we would not be able to match them to any specific firearm. That's a valid point. And then the next thing I have is how many neighbors reported a bang or a loud noise?
Yes, this is where she kind of gets him.
Yes. And I just want to note in my juror notes that Juror 5 and Juror 6 Juror 5 is writing a lot of notes, and Juror 6 is watching the back and forth intently, kind of like the tennis match thing I've described before, where it's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. His head is going back and forth. So he's paying attention. Juror 6 is, which is cool. But how many neighbors reported a bang or loud noise? 4 to 5. Who? I don't remember. Is it possible that Brandon was the only one that heard it? No, multiple people heard it. What do you mean by multiple people? More than 2? Yes, he said yes, more than 2. And she said, well, who were the others? He says, I don't remember. So we have a Brandon in the ring camera. Who else? And he says, well, in this, he actually says, we have had more than 2 testify in this trial. And she wanted to know who that was. And he's like, Brandon and the ring camera, and I guess that's it. So it's not more than 2. It's it's exactly 2.
Yep. That's where I would give her one little tick of saying, all right, Lori, you got him to basically lie on the stand.
Right. To admitting a misstatement, which some people call a lie.
Yeah. Again, not that it's going to matter in the grand scheme of things, but I think she probably felt good about herself for that one.
Yeah, and I think it's a misremembering, honestly. I think he thinks that there were probably 3 that may have testified to it, and then when he actually thinks about it, he's like, oh, crap, I said more than 2, and it's exactly 2.
Yeah.
And really, the ring camera didn't testify. It was the neighbor with the ring camera that testified, but we did see that and hear that, and it was loud and it was shocking.
Yeah.
Lori wants to bring, so I have in my notes, she wants to get in the color of the Jeep. She brings up the probable cause affidavit. And in that probable cause affidavit, I thought this was another decent defense lawyer moment for her. She says the probable cause affidavit to seize the infotainment system from the Jeep in Rexburg that he filled out and signed and took before a judge that was accurate. She says that states that the neighbors stated that it was a gray 2-door hardtop Jeep. But none of the neighbors, and he admits this, none of the neighbors actually called it a gray Jeep.
Right.
So he couldn't recall on the stand any neighbors stating the Jeep was gray. So that was kind of another little gotcha moment where he filled out an affidavit and said that the neighbors said that it was gray. So I'm going to jump ahead to Trina Kay's rehabilitation of this question and answer, where she says, so you had all of your detectives, you had found out by the time you filled out this probable cause affidavit, you had come to the realization that this was a gray Jeep, and you were relying on information from all of your detectives who interviewed all of those witnesses. And Trina Kay says, so the probable cause affidavit doesn't actually say that the neighbors say that it was a gray Jeep. So I want to see that PCA. I want to see if it says the neighbors said it was gray. If I'm on the jury, that's my juror question. Can we see the PCA? And we wouldn't be allowed to see the PCA because it wasn't entered into evidence. But that's a distinction in my mind. Does it or does it not say that the neighbors say that it was a gray Jeep?
Right.
Because that is an inaccurate statement or claim.
Well, I have a note here. So she was at this part of her cross. She was just so condescending and so snotty, right? I mean, she's normally like that, but it's like, it was just, for me, it was just like nails on a chalkboard. So in my best condescending Lori voice, she's like, well, you're the police officer. You're asking for a warrant. You're saying the gray Jeep, and that's not true. Something along those lines, right?
Right.
And he
You're
says,
the case agent, she said. Right. Or the case detective. Yeah.
And he says, I suppose I could have removed a dark color, but I did confirm it was a 2-door gray Jeep. So
no, it was a gray sheep.
It was a gray sheep. So he's admitting yet again, yeah, I could have, on second thought, or, as I'm thinking about it, I could have removed that dark colored part. So not that she's winning any points, but it's just like, I just felt like the more she was questioning him she just kept feeling like she was winning, and it was just getting her more and more annoying. I don't know. How did that play out in court?
Well, Trina Kay actually had some comments that she interjected into here. There was like a 3-way back and forth between Trina and Lori and the witness, maybe 4-way with the judge, where there was like 10 or 15 seconds of back and forth. And the jurors were watching that back and forth very, very intently, like a 3-way tennis match, like bing, bong, boom, bong, bing, bong, boom. Yeah. But they were paying attention. They absolutely were. The affidavit, the jurors, all of the jurors were watching that back and forth very, very intently. Then we go, so Lori wants to bring up something else in the probable cause affidavit And Ms. K objects to it, so we go to another sidebar, and the jury is even a little more restless.
So that's 3 within like what, about half hour or something, even less.
Yeah. And they are, and I don't mean just like juror 9 and juror 6. There are more jurors that are just kind of like looking around the courtroom, looking at the gallery, like, what are we doing here? What is this all about? They're not watching the parties in this sidebar. They're bored, they're restless, and they're fed up with all the sidebars for sure.
Is it time to bring out the shiny toys for them?
Right.
The shiny trinkets and dangle them in front of them to keep their attention.
No, they want donuts. Let's bring them donuts, says Judge Bareski.
Right.
And then my next note is Colby Ryan came in at 11:04 a.m.
Oh, yeah, we saw him. Yeah, we definitely saw him a couple times. Yep.
And he sat in the second row before lunch, but then he moved up to the front row after lunch.
Did Lori acknowledge him at all? Did she see him?
I did not see any. I did not see any back and forth between them. I can tell you that he like stares daggers in the back of her head when he's there, as far as I can tell when I was sitting behind him. But so is Brandon, probably. She's getting a double dose today.
And was Kay there as well, or no?
I
didn't see her. Or if she was, I didn't recognize her.
I think I may have seen Kay for part of the day, but not the entire day for sure.
Okay.
All the days run together in my head.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I hear you. Salty's saying Colby was live before he went in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I missed that. I didn't see that because obviously we were doing our live. So that's pretty. How Salty? How long was he live for? Was it just a short, or was it quick? How long was he live for? Because that'll be something to watch later.
Yeah.
Kate says she saw Lori look at him a couple times.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow, Kate. I did not catch that.
She looked back, I guess. I know there was a couple times where she handed back a folder, but I think he was gone by then. But yeah, it's hard to tell if she's actually looking at him or if she's just looking in that general direction,
Right. She does when she turns around to consult with her advisory council. 90% of the time, she will look beyond them and look into the gallery and just gallery watch.
So very brief. Salty says, Janelle says, didn't he leave when Hermosillo walked out? Don't know about that. And then Jamie says about 3 minutes. So, all right. Yeah, I'll check that out before I go to sleep afterwards.
Yep.
See what he had to say. Okay, so continuing on with Pillar.
We get back from sidebar, and she says, so most of the information in your investigation came from Brandon. He says yes. Now Trina K rehabilitates us later and said, well, you have other information. You have the testimony from the neighbor across the street, and you have the evidence at the scene that corroborates Brandon's story, right? And he says, yeah. So this was a losing point in the end. And then she says, you were in constant contact and on a first name basis. Yes. He says, that's not unusual for me to be on a first name basis even with perpetrators that I'm investigating, like suspects. Like I'll be on a first name basis with them. So nothing unusual about that. What all was taken to the Gilbert PD evidence room? The bullet fragments, a cigarette butt, and photographs. The cigarette butt was not tested. And
that was pretty good for her. I'm sorry to cut you off. I thought that was pretty good that she asked, why didn't you test that cigarette butt? And
he said, well, because it was probably just somebody walking down the street smoking a cigarette. Well, how do you know that?
Yeah, to which she counters, right? She's like, yeah, if you had taken DNA off the butt, you'd have a profile. So why wasn't it collected? And then she kind of laughs. Oh, so why was it collected? Why wasn't it collected? She kind of laughed at that.
Yeah. Why was it even collected if you're not going to test it?
Yeah. Why was it collected? Yeah.
Then he says, well, because it was inside of our crime scene tape.
Right. And they thought it was important. So they did. Okay. So they did consider it important evidence. And then she's like, so why was it collected? Like kind of, she laughed. And then she says, did you discover that Brandon and Alex were smokers? And he's like, no, he didn't discover that. So she's not saying that they were smokers, because I brought that up with my chat and everybody's like, no way. They were LDS, so they wouldn't be smoking. But she kind of posed, I went back and I listened to it, and she said, would it surprise you, or did you discover that Brandon was a smoker? So did I get that right? Because I listened to that a couple times.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think, I mean, it was a nothing burger question, but and a nothing burger answer, actually.
Because she's like intimating, oh, Alex is sitting there smoking and he's, throwing his butt out. Why, if you tested for that, you would have found for sure that was Alex's DNA. That truly would have been the nail in the coffin. But
right, absolutely. And here's the thing about people saying, well, they're LDS, they wouldn't smoke. There are LDS that smoke, and there are probably more LDS that smoke than try and unalive other people with rifles out of the back of a Jeep. So, and LDS that get excommunicated twice, which Alex did. So none of the rules of the church apply to him.
No.
So I'm not saying he smoked, but I'm also not saying he didn't smoke, that I wouldn't put it past him if he did all the other things that are disgusting.
Right.
And then more questions regarding, so he did an interview follow-up with Melani on October 14th. Melani's referred her to a family law attorney to deal with her custody issues. And then Lori tries to get in something, and Trina K tries to object to it to stop her, and Lori keeps on asking the question in the middle, like amidst Trina K's objections. Were you aware of the fact that objection? Were you aware of the fact that objection that Brandon hadn't returned her kids to her? Objection sustained. So he doesn't have to answer that, but it's on the record now, and now the jury knows that Brandon took the kids.
I'm surprised that wasn't removed to strike. I'm surprised Trina didn't say remove to strike, because you're right. She just bulldozed straight through, and we all heard it. So,
yeah, and she was bound and determined to get that question in.
Right.
And then we get to redirect.
All right. Before, I wasn't sure if you were going to say this. So before, she said, so she was seeking help, meaning Melanie was seeking help, and you didn't have any for her. It was that was one of those, like, she had a few of those, and that of course was objected to, but
she was
she was seeking help, and you didn't have any for her. Like, it's like, oh, that's like one of those digs, like, so you were the case agent, you've done hundreds of investigations, and you didn't think to test for the like, she would have those kind of moments, and that was one of them. It was like, so she was seeking help, and you didn't have any for her, and that was, of course, was objected to. So you didn't catch that one.
I did not.
Yeah, and then she's like, big sigh. She's like, that's all I have, Your Honor. She's so dramatic in like the worst way. She's just such a, I don't know, histrionic personality defect, just terrible individual. Anyway, so.
Right. And you mix that in with being a Valley girl from the 80s.
Yeah.
She's got that hair. She's got that Shih Tzu hair that just cracks me up.
Yeah.
Like, pulling it up in the ponytail on top and the flop and the curls.
Yep. A lot of people were saying that you could see the gray underneath her ponytail or whatever. But well, that's a good question. Before we get to redirect, who did you ride up with who did you ride in the elevator with? So
this was at the end of the day. So y'all are going to have to wait till we get to the end of the day.
Oh, yes. Love that tease. So if you're thinking about falling asleep, don't stay up. We'll be done in another 5 hours, so don't worry. It won't be that late.
Probably. more likely than not. to quote Detective Hermosillo. Right. Oh no, it wasn't him. I forget who the detective was. One of the detectives said more likely than not. I think it was the ballistics guy.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. So we go to redirect. There's an immediate sidebar. And then we come out of sidebar, and Ms. K starts talking about the color of the Jeep and the various different colors stated by different witnesses. And then is this when she asked him, is it common for... No, that's after the jury question. We'll get to the question that I was going to ask. That's in response to the jury question. We actually had another juror question today. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like juror five yesterday, like opened the floodgates. Like hopefully we get one every day, and hopefully tomorrow is the last day, and that's the last one.
Yeah.
Then she tries to rehabilitate the affidavit. She says, in your affidavit, you say it's gray. You don't say that the neighbors said that it's gray. Yes. No objection from Lori. So the reason I thought there should be an objection here is because she's mentioning stuff from an affidavit that is not entered into evidence. So it's either hearsay or there's no foundation for it. So as a defense attorney, I would have objected to that on foundation or hearsay or both. I'm not sure it would have gotten anywhere because I'm not a defense attorney. I'm not an attorney at all. But I would have objected to it there. Then she gets into the information provided by the neighbor about seeing the Jeep there. All right, who's blowing up my phone? Stop. So the neighbor's testimony corroborated Brandon's story. And then she gets into the lack of preservation of the glass. And she said, would you be able to say that it hadn't changed in 5 years if you had preserved it? Absolutely not. That is a really weak rehabilitation question. Would you be able to say that it hadn't changed in 5 years if you had preserved it? That's lots of evidence that is put in evidence rooms changes over 5 years. The question is, has it changed enough to make the results of any testing on it later unreliable?
Yeah.
Because DNA, you can test DNA that was taken 40 years ago and come up with reliable results. You can also test DNA that was taken 40 years ago and not be able to come up with reliable results. So it's on a case-by-case basis. I don't think that was a really strong answer, but I don't know what the jury thinks, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So let me get to some juror notes here. When she's talking about the affidavit, the jurors are watching. Oh, wait, we already talked about that. Okay, redirect. We're on redirect. During redirect, when they went to that immediate sidebar, the jury gets immediately restless, and they are looking out into the gallery. Like there's a good 4 or 5 of them looking out into the gallery, including like almost half of the entire top row. They all turn to the left, and they're all looking out into the gallery. And I'm trying not to make eye contact with them because I'm observing the jury, right? That's part of one of the things that I'm doing. I'm observing the jury, but it's awkward when you make eye contact with them. And I swear that 3 of them made eye contact with me today, like juror 9, juror 5, and juror 6. Right. So I look away, and I'm like getting a little restless myself, just watching them be restless. And I do this little thing where I stretch my neck like that, like 3 sides, just like getting the neck muscles loose. And I look over, and juror 5 does the exact same thing.
Oh, wow.
And it freaked me out because is it like one of those yawning things where it's like contagious, and he sees somebody else do it and he feels like he's got to do it, which means he had to have been watching me pretty closely, or is it just coincidence? But it freaked me out just a little bit because that's more than a yawn. That's like a head neck movement roll thing, loosen your neck muscles.
That is kind of weird. Yeah.
It was mirror movement,
right?
Subconscious or coincidental, I don't know. That's in my notes. So then we're into redirect. Then we get to the other sidebar. Juror number 8, at one point in time during the redirect, is watching Trina K very closely. And she doesn't just watch her in the direct or in the redirect examination of the witness, but when she goes back and gets, evidence that she's going to present, when she goes back to her desk, she's like watching her and tracking her movements and listening to what she's saying. So juror number 8, that's the first time I've actually seen her watching any one of the parties, and she's watching Trina K pretty closely. She's a younger gal with kind of straight, like reddish brown hair. It's not like red, like gingerbread, but there's like maybe a little bit of a reddish tint to it. I think she has glasses, like round glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And she's watching Trina K pretty closely during this part of this. And then the sidebar's over, and then the jury goes back to being fairly baseline with a little bit of restlessness before we move on with the next witnesses. So Trina K still has some redirect to do, though. So the corroboration of the evidence with the testimony of the neighbor and Brandon kind of like all come together in his investigation. And then into testing, she talks about testing the fragments to see if they came from a rifle or a handgun. And this seems like Lori really doesn't know much about this, because you can use some of the same ammunition in either a handgun or a rifle. Like, even if they had gotten the intact projectile, I'm not sure. Well, okay, a rifle does create rifling. Okay, all right. I'm thinking this through. I'm thinking out loud.
Okay.
I guess if you got an intact projectile, you could probably determine if it came from a rifle or a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just have fragments and they don't have any rifling marks on them, I don't think you could tell, even if you sent them in for testing, that they came from a rifle or a handgun.
That's what they're saying. So based on the testimony in this trial, that's what they're saying, that you cannot test. You wouldn't be able to tell with the fragments that they collected.
Right. You would have to have a more intact projectile.
Yeah. Or a casing, I suppose, too.
Right. Yes. And we hear about that later on, right?
Yeah.
But I think Trina K asks a pretty relevant question in this case. 3 relevant questions. Was Brandon's car shot? Yes. Would a handgun kill someone? Yes. Would a rifle kill someone? Yes. I mean, that's all we need to know. It doesn't matter if it's a rifle or a handgun in the end.
Yep.
Because we know that Alex had a handgun or handguns, and he had rifles. Now, when they did the search warrant in Rexburg, I only saw pictures of rifles. So maybe the one that they took in Chandler was his only handgun. Maybe. Mm-hmm. It's the only one we know about through evidence. Then Ms. K asked him if he was working with other agencies, working on other cases investigating Melani Boudreaux. Mm-hmm. Another bombshell. Yep. Another bombshell, Mrs. Pulowski. Mm-hmm. Sister Pulowski.
The eye of Trina K is upon you.
Yes, it is. And people have asked, have they moved it out of the area? And Trace, are you still in chat? Because Trace has actually come up with evidence that as of a week or so ago, Ian and Melani were in the East Valley within driving distance of Trace on the case. So they haven't moved out of the area unless they did over the weekend after last week's testimony. Or after last week's Trina K slip. And I don't think it was a slip. Mm-mm. She doesn't slip much. Were you working with other agencies to corroborate what Brandon told you? Yes. Were you working with agencies around the Rexburg area investigating this case? Yes. So it was a collaborative effort. Then we have our juror question from juror number 3.
They were all from juror number 3?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
All in the same paper. And I don't have all of the questions written down, I think, because they just happened so fast. And then the audio was also a little bit inaudible for me.
Mm-hmm. Let me know what you got, and I'll let you know what I got.
I was just noticing that Trace and Sinbad were talking about how cute Hermosillo is.
Oh.
Oh, gosh. We'll get there when we get to Hermosillo. But I won't talk about how cute he is. I have, in your experience, is it typical for witnesses to mix up colors? Yes. And then I have, were the phone calls to Melani in the car interview recorded? Yes. Was a voicemail left? Yes. And then Pillar left his own voicemail. What do you have for that?
Pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Just worded slightly different here and there, but pretty much the same. Yeah.
Right. And there's Ms. K. Lori doesn't have a follow-up. Trini K does. She asked him to clarify a little bit why witnesses get colors mixed up. And he just said they do in just normal everyday situations. They can mix up white for black, red for green. Mm-hmm. Just people mix up things. Eyewitness testimony is unreliable. But even then you add on to that the stress of a situation like a crime being committed or a domestic violence or a, custody situation, let alone being shot at and that bullet missing your head by inches.
Yeah.
Can absolutely do that.
Have you ever seen those experiments that they do where they'll have, I've seen them in Washington Park in New York. I don't know if they might do them elsewhere, but they'll recreate like a mugging, or they'll recreate something, and then they'll ask like the 10 people, what did you see? And literally you'll get 10 different answers. And then It's revealed like, hey, it's like you're on candid camera. We're doing this experiment. Thank you for participating. And then they'll show, no, this person was wearing red. You said they were wearing white. And these people's minds are blown. They're like, wow, how could I be that far off? And to your point, something that happens that's either traumatic, dramatic, scary, whatever word you want to use. And it's really interesting what your brain perceives, what you remember from the reality of what actually happens. So as a police officer, as law enforcement, you got to get as much information as you can from as many different people. And even then, it may not be accurate,
Right. Even then, you try and find the other evidence that corroborates what most of the witnesses are trying to tell you. So here's a mind trippy question for you that I have thought about for a very, very long time. What if the color that I see as orange, and I call orange, looks like the color that you see as green, but we see a color and we both call it orange? But I would call it green if I saw it through your eyes.
Well, that's kind of what we're running into with this Jeep. Like, I wouldn't call that green, although sometimes it looks gray. But you're right. What's my definition of gray is not your definition of gray. And I hope it's not that far off. I hope the sky is blue and you're not saying that it's green. but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, what is that determination of what I see versus what you see,
Yeah, and I Trace and I actually passed a Jeep this morning on the way into court, and just a few blocks from court, that is, I believe, this color. And when I saw it, in the morning light, it looked to me like a combination of mint green and aquamarine. And I said that on my lunch live, like it looked greenish to me, mint green, aquamarine. It did not look gray. I would not look at that Jeep and I would not call it gray. But apparently that's what most people call it. And that's officially, according to Salty, that's what Jeep calls it. They call it Earl Grey.
Yeah. Capri says, as a hairdresser, I can confirm that people see orange, red, yellow when it surely isn't there. Well, here's another thing. Men perceive red differently than women do. because as a graphic designer, and Aaron and I, like, we get into the psychology of color, and different colors mean different things as marketing, as marketers. So I think men, I got to get this right. I haven't thought about this for a while. I think men see red more on maybe a bluish side, and women see it more on an orange side. So it's like more like the tint of red is a little bit different between female and male, and that's just genetics. That's just the biology of how our eyes are made. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. The whole psychology of colors is really interesting,
Yeah.
it's affecting a case now. But honestly, I think in Lori's case, it's a nothing burger. Like, she's trying to get into, he said this color, or he said that color, and I'm not sure the jury's buying it, but you never know.
Right. So thank you, Shore Life, for confirming that. Yeah, I think men go for more the blue red and women go for the orange red, or it's the other way around. I forget which.
Wow.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, lighting makes all the difference for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can tell you that for sure right now. Look at my lighting. See this? I do not have natural lighting right now.
Okay. All right. So we're finished with the questions. Right, jury questions. Moving on to the next juror.
Yes.
Is that where we're at? Okay.
Really quick testimony from Vanessa Milkey, forensic scientist with Mesa PD. They do the typical curriculum vitae questions and review of the typical processes and procedures. She talks about a mixture, which means that multiple DNA contributors are in the sample: major contributor, minor contributor, the XX and the XY chromosomes, known and unknown samples. So all of us in true crime have already heard all of this stuff. I like the fact that Trina K moves through it fairly quickly. She doesn't spend an hour on it. We don't need an hour. We just need 5 minutes, if that. So she's with Mesa. She was assisting Gilbert PD in January of 2020. And she performed an analysis on samples provided by the other Mesa PD forensic scientists of a known and an unknown sample. There's the steering wheel DNA. On the steering wheel, there were three contributors. One, the major contributor was a male, which matched Alex's profile. And this is my official Twitter statement. The odds of this matching anyone else is 1 in a gazillion. It's my official statement on Twitter. 1 in a gazillion.
1 in a gazillion. I just like the zeros. 1 with 18 zeros.
Right. Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing: is she had a different one for different races. She had 3 different one in something quintillion, septillion, hexillion, whatever. I mean, she had 3 different ones. So if you multiply those all together, it's 1 in a gazillion.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't they use the power? Why don't they say 1, to the power of...
To the power of 48.
Yeah. Why don't you just do that instead of make up these words that nobody's going to, remember.
Right.
Right.
And then she had 2 swabs from the interior, plus the swabs on the lug nuts were inconclusive. The swab from the gear shift also had 3 contributors, from which Alex could not be eliminated. That means he had enough markers that matched, but not enough to make it a determinable match. So he couldn't be eliminated, but he couldn't be excluded, couldn't be included. Well, he could be included, but not excluded.
Right.
But it couldn't be determined definitively with those 1 in a gazillion. Then we have the driver's side seat belt buckle. Once again, I have my official Twitter statement. Odds of it not being Alex is also 1 in a gazillion.
Mm-hmm. Now, the takeaway for me was that, okay, the steering wheel and the driver's seat side, driver's belt, seatbelt buckle, right? So conclusion is Alex was the shooter and the the getaway driver. So Chad's DNA was not on there.
Right.
Or they didn't test for it. They didn't test for
not
Chad.
As a major contributor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I took away from that. And then Lori's turn to cross. What does Lori do?
No questions.
Yeah. I
No
thought,
questions from the jury either.
yeah, I thought she missed an opportunity to say, well, he's my brother. Of course he's in I let him drive the Jeep. Of course his DNA is going to be there.
Yep.
And she just, right. She just let that
Right.
go.
Are you aware that Alex Cox is my brother? Are you aware that we drive each other's vehicles?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that could have been easily. Well, first of all, to me, that shows that he was the shooter and the getaway driver. And then B, she missed an opportunity to say, he's my brother. Of course I let him drive the Jeep. Big deal.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So
Yeah, because it was parked at that townhome complex where they all lived.
yeah, sure. I let him drive it every week or whatever. Yeah, he visits me all the time. I mean, that could have been easily explained away.
So explain away to me, though, how Tylee wasn't driving it at that point in time.
Yes, then there's that.
Yeah.
Then there's that. But wouldn't her DNA still be on somewhere? Well, they didn't check.
Well,
It could have been.
that may have been one of the minor contributors. That's what I'm thinking. To the
Yeah.
steering wheel and the gear shift,
Right.
and the seatbelt, there were minor contributors. So that she may have been one of the minor contributors, but she had been gone long enough at that point, and he had used that Jeep to drive 14 hours down to Gilbert and 14 hours back. So that perspiration on his hands and the other, the fact that he was the primary driver of that vehicle for so many hours at a time tells me that her DNA became a minor contributor to that, which is really sad.
Yep. Yeah. I started to make a timeline and I want to add to it. Meaning like people are like, well, where does this fall in the whole, scheme of things? So I'm starting to make a timeline of everything, but that's for something else. That just reminded me of I have to add something more to that. So DNA would have gone away from, let's see, Tylee was last seen like the 5th or 6th of September. Was it right around Labor Day?
That sounds about right.
Somewhere in there. And then this is the first second. So he's probably driving it with, straight away right after, he knocks her off.
Right.
So yeah, his DNA, his slobber and sweat are all over it. Yeah.
She was last seen alive on September 8th, 2019 at the entrance of Yellowstone National Park with Lori and Alex and JJ.
September 8th, you say?
Right. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Well, I thought it was right around there. And then JJ's like the 21st, 22nd, right? The night of the 21st, I think. Somewhere in there.
Yep. 23rd.
The 23rd even? Okay. All right. Yep. Yeah, so July 11th, Charles is shot. September 8th, Tylee goes missing. September 23rd, JJ goes missing. October 2nd, Brandon's shot at.
Well, hold on. Back up a second. JJ goes missing on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Which is the exact day that Alex Cox made an appointment to have the windows tinted and then went on the 25th, 2 days later, to get the windows tinted.
That is correct.
The same day JJ goes missing,
yep,
he makes an appointment to have the windows tinted on that Jeep.
Right. And then Tammy dies on the 19th of October, then December 12th, Alex dies. So from July 11th to December 12th. 1, 2, 3, four are deleted, and then, well, was Alex? Well, that's debatable. But 1, 2, 3 for sure. Charles, Tylee, and JJ, and then Tammy's the 4th, and then Brandon shot it. Yeah, I mean. And then they're married, right? They're married November 10th or something like that in Hawaii.
Something like that.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. God. Yeah, they were definitely on a killing spree for sure.
What a messed up timeline.
Yeah, 23rd is the day they bought the burner phone too. Wow, so
wow.
It's crazy, like putting all these dates together. It's like, oof, they were busy in the worst way possible.
Well, think about so we heard a lot about Melani today, Melani Boudreaux Pulowski. and she was trying really, really hard to get her kids back. She even tried to get, Detective Pillar, dang it, I did it again. Detective Pillar to help her get her kids back. And he's like, I don't want no part of this. But then she shows up here and she shows up there. And then also, so Brandon did hire a private investigator. We heard about that yesterday. And Trace has a story. She knows about how they got within 2 miles of so Melani got within 2 miles of where Brandon was hiding out, and how she did, we don't know, but they didn't get closer than 2 miles, but they were hot on their trail. Melani was hot. Melani and Alex were hot on their trail to get the kids in this exact same time period.
Yeah. Yeah. Deborah, would they have killed more people? Well, Brandon, possibly some of the kids, they had 4 kids, I think, right? There was kind of some talk that those kids might have, maybe the kids, I'm not sure. Yeah. Who knows after that? Yeah, shore life. Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's what Aaron and I kind of talk about. Do you agree with that? Have you heard that too, Joe?
What's that?
Brandon and Melanie's kids, that they were.
Oh yeah, she determined 2 of the 4 were dark, and probably the
Yeah.
other 2 would have ended up dark eventually too. But anybody that was determined to be dark was going to end up unalived at some point, because they were no longer them. Their spirit had left their body, and an evil spirit had inhabited their body, and that's what made them dark / zombies, and they were subject to deleting.
This is a good question. I just want to bring this up. Dee says, "Wait until the jury hears the entire story. Feel so sorry for them." That's really interesting, because we're diving deep. We've been following this for years now, and have watched all these trials. You've been to 2 of them. Do you think the jurors are going as deep as we are? I mean, maybe some of them are. Maybe it was Tosh. Is that her name? Taz? I'm sorry. What's her name? Tosh?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Trace does. Trace, tell us how to pronounce her name, please, so I don't get it wrong again, because I've said it 2 different ways and I feel bad for both ways. But juror 5, I think, is getting into it that deep, because he is constantly taking notes. He's the first one to ask questions.
Yeah.
And he's usually interactive. This afternoon, I think he got a little bored, and I wonder if he's already got part of the way towards some type of a conclusion. Like, I think I see what's going on here. And he's Tash.
Tash, I guess. Is that Tash? My cat is Karen. My cat's name is Karen. I love that name, Tash. What about your friend Tom? Right? Is it Tom? What about?
Yeah. So I actually texted him, and he went up for a little vacation in the mountains. So we couldn't do a live, but we're going to do a live when he gets back. But he definitely did not see this side of her. But he had already formed a conclusion of how he would vote if he were included in the jury pool. But I don't think he got to go to deliberation, or he had a good idea in his mind. When I say he already came to a conclusion, that's probably not fair, and you're not supposed to do that. But he already had a pretty good idea that she was probably responsible. She was probably guilty, more probably than not.
Right.
I mean, you cannot, and that's one of the questions they ask you in jury selection, and it's one of the things that I find fascinating about jury selection that you don't get to watch on TV. Is they ask you, if you get into the jury room, are you subject to influence from the other jurors? Like, will you change your opinion? But you can't be too subject to opinion, but you also have to have an open mind to be able to have other jurors say, well, you know what, I agree with you about this, but I disagree that this, isn't conclusive evidence type of thing. So you got to be able to have a debate and have some back and forth and have some give and take in a jury. And that's like probably a tough balance to find. I mean, we have a wide range of ages, and in this, I mean, we have like an older guy that's probably a little bit older than me, maybe in his 60s. We lost the guy that's in his 80s, but we still have a guy that's in his 60s. We have a guy that's in his probably 40s, and we have a bunch of guys and gals that are in their 20s and 30s. Like, I mean, that's it. We have a young jury with a couple of older guys. So it'll be interesting to see how they figure it all out.
All right. All right. Did we get to Cross of Kyle?
No, we haven't even got through Direct of Kyle.
Okay.
So he's the division chief, forensics division chief for the city of Phoenix. He's going to handle the gunshot residue stuff. They do the standard CV questions and talk about gunshot residue microscopic particles. It's a good question. Hypothetically, if someone fired a gun from inside a parked vehicle, would there be gunshot residue inside the vehicle? Oh, this is him. More likely than not.
He is.
Or he says more than likely. Yeah.
Yeah. More likely to not. Yeah. More likely to not come. Yeah.
Gunshot residue remains on a surface until it's washed away. I actually didn't know that. Like if you use a glass cleaner on the Jeep window, she said, like if you use glass cleaner on a Jeep windows, it's funny. She just hypothetically mentions a Jeep.
Right.
January of 2020, Gilbert PD provided gunshot residue samples to him, which he tested. He tested 3 samples out of 8. He tested the interior window samples on the passenger side rear window, which he found all 3 types of particles consistent with and characteristic, and lead only is the third one, is what I have written down. I don't remember what the technical term for finding lead only was.
Yeah, I have lead, barium, and antimony, and 2 of the 3 were present. I didn't. Lead particles only were the passenger inside back window, but then he said 2 of the 3 particles were present.
No, so he said no. He said in the passenger side rear window, he said all 3 types of particles. So there's 3 types of particles you can find, gunshot residue particles. One of them is lead only, which means it's probably consistent with a gunshot residue, but not necessarily. There are other sources of lead only in society, in our world, in our environment that you can find. So just finding lead only is not indicative of a positive determination for gunshot residue. But when you get 2 of the 3 together, then that is consistent with a gunshot being fired, consistent with, but being like not the highest level of proof, which is characteristic of. So when you find a particle with all 3 of those elements in it, that is characteristic of gunshot residue, which is like DNA. Like finding that gunshot residue means a gun was fired in the vicinity of that surface. Right.
Okay.
So he found all 3 on the passenger side rear window sample that he tested.
And the driver's side. I have the driver and the passenger side.
Yes, the driver's side interior window also tested positive for all 3 levels of gunshot residue. So lead only, plus 2 of the 3 elements, plus a particle, plus 2 particles. They found 2 particles on the driver's side window. Driver's side interior window had all 3 elements present. 2 particles did. He said something that I wrote down that I thought was impactful. I found that the rear window of the Jeep had been in the vicinity of the discharge of a firearm. And that was after the rear passenger side. But then she said, so you found particles in 3 different areas, and what was your conclusion? And he basically said the same thing. Those surfaces had more likely than not been in the vicinity of the discharge of a firearm. That was all I have for direct. Do you have anything else on direct?
Nope. Yep. That's it.
All right. So then Lori goes to cross, and she's all smarty pants, and she names those 3 particles. She named them earlier in the trial, and Trina K objected. She's like, what's the foundation for this? Like, we haven't got to gunshot residue yet. Why are you bringing these in? Because I want to be all smart. I know all these 3 particles.
She talked about them yesterday.
Yeah, she did. Yep. Yep. And then she asked about other sources of lead, and he named several other sources of lead. She asked if the brake dust might have all three components. I may have heard this question wrong, and he says yes, because then later Trina K asked him the same question, and he says no. So I may have not heard Lori's question correctly, but I thought she asked if brake dust might create those.
She did. He said it's possible. So Trina asked that too. She, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. It was. Well,
Yep.
do you want to get to that now, or do you want to wait?
Yeah. Well, and then Lori asked him about like fireworks fired in the back of the thing. He says, no, that's not going to create all three elements together in the same particle. Mm-hmm. Fireworks in the Jeep aren't going to. So yeah, then we get to redirect. And Ms. K asks him about hairspray and brake dust and fireworks. If they can create the three-component gunshot residue particle, no, they cannot. He says that very definitively. So I was a little confused because I thought Lori asked him that and he said yes, but then Ms. K asked him and he says no.
That's it. Yeah. Brake dust, he said, my notes say it's possible. So you're right. He's leaving the door open. It's possible, but then hairspray and brake dust would not create the particles. But then Trina says no matter how much hairspray you use or fireworks you blow off wouldn't produce the three particles. So it's not how much is there, it's what you find that's most relevant. So right. Even though fireworks could produce it, they don't produce all three. So they just produce one of them.
One or two.
Yeah, one or two. So that's kind of the takeaway from that.
Right. And then he says that when a firearm is discharged, he expects to find all three types of particles. So he expects to find some just lead. He expects to find some particles that contain two of the three elements, but he also expects to find particles with three of the three elements. So all three of them. So you're probably not ever going to see a gunshot residue surface near a firearm discharge that only contains three element particles. Like if you see three element particles, you're also probably going to see 2 element particles, and you're also probably going to see some lead only particles. Right. No jury questions on that either, which kind of surprised me because we do have the son of a gunsmith in the jury. I think he's juror number 3, if I remember right. He's the guy that likes to go off campus for lunch. So somebody said they saw him in Five Guys once. Today when I was doing my lunchtime live, well, before I was doing my lunchtime live, I wasn't doing it when I saw him walk by, but when I was setting up for my lunchtime live, I saw him walk by back into the courthouse from somewhere off campus. So he does not like the courthouse cafe.
Okay. As long as he has time to, well, you guys had, like you said, an hour and 15 minutes, or was it?
Yep. Yep. We had an extra 15 minutes today. And the jury gets let out before we do, because when the judge releases the jury, he says, okay, everybody must be seated. Do we have anything from the state? Anything more from the state? Anything more from the defense? Usually there is at least like a 2-minute discussion about something or nothing before we get to be released too. So we get 2 to 3 minutes less than the jury at least, which is no big deal. But so because there's a 30-minute delay, I've been trying to go eat lunch before I start my lunch break update. So I'll go down and sit outside the cafe and eat my lunch. And I run into all kinds of people and a few jurors too down there eating lunch. Yep. They're just intermingling with the public. They're getting their lunch. They're sitting down and eating. They're looking around to see what lunch is. Like juror number 9 came down there like when I was wrapping up my lunch. So it took him a while to get down to the cafe. And he turns the corner and he looks at the line. So by that time, it's like 12:10, 12:15, and everybody's going to go eat lunch. So the line for the cafe is super long. He sees the super long line and he turns around and goes back wherever he goes. I don't know if he went out of the courthouse for lunch, but he didn't get lunch in the cafe today. He's like, screw that line. I'm out of here.
All right.
But I also ran into him in the bathroom this morning. He was washing his hands as I was coming in to go to the men's room. And he saw me and he saw that I was not another juror, and he like skedaddled out of the bathroom like a scared rabbit. Like, don't talk to me. I'm not talking to you. Don't talk to me. Boom.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad they're taking that seriously, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. Are we into Ray Hermosillo now?
We are. We are into Detective Lieutenant, whatever you want to say. Big
Ray
guns.
Hermosillo.
Guns. Yeah. Yes. His freaking arms are bigger than my freaking body.
Right. and he's also like a foot at least shorter than me.
Really?
Yes, he is. He's like he's maybe 5'4", 5'5", I think.
Wow.
Just like
I didn't know that.
He's just a little guy. But he's a big little guy.
He's a big little guy. He seems so nice though, so gentle. Like people were saying, "Oh my God, he's so big, he's so big." But I'm like, he is so gentle. He just comes across as just a really nice guy, you know.
Well, what's really cool is we learned about when they're going through his CV that he was just promoted to detective in 2019. Mm-hmm. So he was a patrol officer, and he gets promoted to detective, and immediately he gets this case.
Yeah. Right.
In 2019, when he's just a rookie detective.
Right. He said there were only 7. There were only 7 detectives. He was one of 7. Yeah.
Yep. and he helps solve this case of JJ and Tylee. And he helps find them in Chad Daybell's backyard. Yep. And now, 6 years later, he is the lieutenant of the detectives, like the entire detective force. Well, it's 7, but it is 7, and he's the lieutenant. So he's just like, I have utmost respect for his process of working through. I obviously respect for the work that he did in the Idaho case.
Yeah. He did a great job. Yeah, just no doubt. Did a great job.
Yep. And he's really down to earth. Like, he was concentric to the circles that I've been in. Like, he came over and he talked to Nate Eaton for a while, and he talked to Gigi for a while. And those are people that know me and I know them. And we've had conversations, brief or long conversations, but I never did get to like interact with him. And there was like a group talking with him, including Nate, including Gigi, including a couple of other people that are like regulars in the courtroom, having a conversation outside the courtroom after today. And I was like, I so want to drop in on this conversation and listen to it. It's got to be fascinating, but I didn't do that because that would have been rude. Yeah, I'm going to stand here and listen. Ignore me. I'm just standing here listening. Oh.
That's all right. But you know Nate, right? You've talked to Gigi before. I don't think they'd be if you just kind of sidle up.
It wasn't just Nate and Gigi. They were 2 of the like 7 people that were standing there having conversation, including, Lieutenant Hermosillo. So I felt it would have been rude. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
So on November 1st, so the dates start to become important here. On November 1st, he spoke with Gilbert PD and was asked to impound a 2018 Jeep Wrangler that was believed to be in Rexburg. And they were provided with an address for that. They went and surveilled that address, and they were not able to see the Jeep at that time on November 1st, but they did take pictures of Lori and her blue Nissan Rogue. And Lori got in her blue Nissan Rogue and went to Walgreens. She has an obsession with Walgreens that I don't understand. Like she was in the Walgreens in Chandler that day. She went to the Walgreens in Chandler after her husband had been shot to death by her brother. She went to Walgreens to get a pair of flip-flops.
Yep.
Walgreens.
Yep.
And she goes to Walgreens in this, And then later we learn from the Google warrants that she searched Walgreens in Rexburg and Walgreens in Idaho Falls. Like, she has this thing for Walgreens that is just mind-boggling to me.
It's got everything a girl could want, I guess, right?
I guess that maybe she can find her ingredients for green chili chicken enchiladas in there. So anyway, they took pictures of her getting in and out of the blue Nissan Rogue with an Arizona license plate. Then they continued to look for it over the weekend with no success. And then he says he was going to the gym. He never goes to the gym. Like, look at that guy. He never goes to the gym. He was going to the gym and coming back. He happened to pass the townhomes and he saw the Jeep there. So he called the tow company of the day, hook of the day, they call it, to come impound the vehicle. They impounded it in Rexburg PD interior, like inside impound lot. They didn't leave it outside in the elements. And then after they impounded the Jeep, they attempted to contact Lori. They went to Unit 175, Apartment 175, whatever you want to call it, knocked on the door several times. No answer, no answer, no answer. And he also notes that Lori didn't report the Jeep stolen.
Yep.
And one of the people that I'm trial watching with actually said that one of the jurors, and I think it was juror number 9, actually was like, did a double take and was like, what? She didn't report it stolen? So that's an impactful piece of evidence right there.
Yeah, that is pretty big. Yeah. And no one, not just her, Charles, because they don't know anything about Charles. And we know that it was in Charles. The registration is in Charles and Lori's name.
Right.
So where's Charles? Why didn't he report it stolen? Yep.
Right. Or even missing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So then we get photos of the Jeep impounded, and we have receipts and stuff that were found inside the Jeep. So this presents a question for me. They didn't have the warrants yet from Chandler or from Gilbert PD to search the inside of the vehicle. So police departments, when they impound a vehicle, are actually allowed to do an inventory search under an exception to the, what is it? Is it the Fourth Amendment that search and seizure? Or is that the Sixth Amendment? One of you constitutionalists, let me know. But anyway, there's an exception to the constitutional right against illegal search and seizure, and police impoundment inventory is one of those exceptions. So I kind of feel like it's a gray area in this case that he's taken these things out of the inside of the vehicle. But there's definitely an exception there that is utilized by police departments a lot. Lori never gets into it, so we're not ever going to know if it's a thing. Susie, I think inventory search after they tow. Like when they get it to wherever they tow it to, they do an inventory, I think. Anyway, that's a side issue. That's another rabbit hole we don't need to go down. There's a receipt of a fast food order from Los Favoritos on South Power Road in Mesa, Arizona from October 1st, like 1:30-ish p.m. on October 1st, which, by the way, is only a couple miles from where I'm staying right now.
I was going to say, have you gone there? Can you go there?
I can go there, and I actually kind of want to go there now.
Yeah.
And see if they really are. Los Favoritos.
Do like a live. Go there and do a.
There you go.
Do a live.
There you go.
That'd be fun.
Some. Oh, okay. Yeah, Trace knows where that's at.
It's over by the Walmart. Yep.
Yep.
And yes, Sinbad, it is the Fourth Amendment search and seizure. Fourth Amendment.
Okay. Thank you. I thought it was. That was my first instinct, but I can't always keep them straight. So anyway, so that means he was in Mesa on October 1st at 1:12 p.m. So this was, if you go to 1:12 a.m., that's 12 hours plus It happened at 9 o'clock. So that's another 8 hours. So that's 20 hours before the shooting happened.
Mhm.
But it does place him in Mesa very near the shooting within a very reasonable time period for him to be the one that's responsible. Then we get to Detective Hermosillo and some of his detective buddies went to Unit 175 in Rexburg, where they made contact with Alex and Chad getting out of Alex's truck at that location. And so then they start to get into an aerial photo. So she shows an aerial photo of the townhome community.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked him to point out, and here's where we start to find out that Lori had a unit there. Her unit number was actually 107, but she was seen, and her blue Nissan was parked in the garage at unit 175. And Melani Boudreaux / Pulowski had rented unit 174.
Right.
So those three people had 3 units, and he kind of points out on the map where those 3 units are. And obviously 174 and 175 are right next to each other. 107 is like around the corner. And then we see the applications. Lori submitted an application on August 26th. So this is a month and a half after Charles has been shot and killed. She submits an application to rent one of the townhomes in Rexburg on August 26th, Unit 107. Unit 175, Alex submitted an application for that around the same time period. So we see that they have different applications, but 3 of them are living like in the same townhome community, very near each other.
Yeah. Boy, the more I hear about this, the more I'm like, Melani, I just can't imagine they're not going to do something with her. Like, there's just so much evidence that she knew what was going on. She was participating in it.
Right. Yep. All right. So then we get into the search warrants. On November 26th, they went to all 3 of those apartments, 107, 174, 175, attempted to make contact. Nobody was home, or nobody answered the contact. They, knocking on the door. So then the next day, November 27th, they executed a search warrant on all 3 of the apartments. Number 107 was completely vacant and empty. And he said it was like somebody, it was like prepared so somebody could move into it now, like a new renter could move into it tomorrow. It was that vacant, empty, and clean. Like nobody ever put anything, nobody stepped foot in that apartment, probably. Like maybe to look at it when they signed, maybe to look at it when they signed the lease or whatever, but nobody was living there. Nobody was staying there. Then they went to 175. You know what? We didn't hear about 174. We didn't hear about what was in Melani's townhome. I'm kind of interested. I'm kind of curious about that now, right?
Yeah. It was just the 107 and then Lori's. Well, Alex's, but Lori was staying in 175.
Right. So there was furniture in there. There was food in the pantry. There was food in the fridge. But then when they went upstairs to the bedroom, like all of the closets and all of the dressers had been emptied out, empty hangers, he said. So, and it was like somebody had just grabbed stuff and like fled. That's how he described it. Then they went down to the garage and they found a bunch of, first of all, one of the things that they found before we get into what was in the garage, they found a rental agreement for a storage unit that was like a half mile north. That was dated October 1st. So they rented a storage unit on October 1st which was the day before the shooting, but was also the day of October 1st was the day that the Jeep was seen on one of those license plate readers in Holbrook, Arizona.
Right.
Then in the garage, they found boxes of women's clothes. So the way that Trina, and then they found rifles, a bunch of rifles. The way that Trina phrased it was indicia. You found indicia of Lori's presence in that townhome. You found indicia of Alex's presence in that townhome. Indicia was a word she used several times.
Yeah.
Basically means as a fancy word for indications. You found indications that Lori had been there, indications that Alex had been there. Right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of gross to me because them living together, brother and sister living together. I mean, it doesn't have to be gross, but but they have 2 apartments. They can move their stuff into 2 different apartments. Why are they moving their stuff, his stuff and her stuff, into the same apartment? Like, dude, if you want Lori to live there next to her niece, that's fine. You go live in 107. Like, go move your stuff into 107. But no, they didn't do that. It just gave me a little bit of a vibe when I got that. I made notes of that on Twitter too. So Ms. K goes to enter photographs of the things that they found executing that search warrant. And Lori makes an objection. He says, "What is it?" And she says, "Well, it's cumulative." And I don't know what a cumulative objection is, but it didn't carry any weight with Judge Bresky because he allowed all of the photographs in. And then we see pictures of all the rifles they found in the garage. And some of them had threaded barrels that would accommodate a silencer or a suppressor, whatever you want to call it. But some of the rifles did have threaded barrels.
Yep.
And then there's pictures of more rifles. There's pictures of ammunition. There's pictures of rifle parts. Lots and lots of firearms in the garage.
The stock was also padded. He had like wrapped tape or something. It was padded.
Yep.
Now I thought there were 4 or 5 rifles shown.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I didn't count them.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's a lot of rifles.
It's a lot of rifles. And then the boxes of ammo, and Hermosillo was like a lot of ammo. A lot. Yeah. he made sure it was a lot.
Yep. And then we start going into the storage unit stuff.
Yeah, there were some new things with all this video, actually. Had you seen all the different camera angles before?
I had not seen the far ones from the outside, and I hadn't seen the far one from the inside. The far one from the inside. So I watched Nate Eden's enhanced video part of that.
Yeah, that's what we did too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I complimented on that today. I was like, as soon as they started showing the far away video, I was like, "You did enhanced video of this, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I really like that." He's like, "Thank you."
You can really see Chad's big potato head.
Yeah, but okay, but can the jurors see it on this unenhanced video? That's the question, right?
Well, they don't know what Chad looks like, but they know what Lori looks like. They don't know what Alex looks like, right? They just know what Lori looks like because obviously she's right there. So,
well, but they're seeing her from a perspective that is a long ways away. Right? Well, do you want to pull that? Do you have that you can pull that up from what you aired earlier? Like, show us some of that footage that shows us the outside when they're wheeling the wheel in, and the inside, because they're way far away and they're itty bitty tiny. So what I told Trace on the case, and you all may disagree with me, and feel free to disagree with me, but if I'm a defense attorney, I get up there and I'm like, What distinguishing features can you see on that person that's all the way into the hallway, at the end of the hallway, that tell you that that's Lori Vallow / Daybell, whatever? What distinguishing characteristics can you tell me you see? Because Trina was showing those videos and they're really far off and you can't see distinguishing characteristics. So that would be my point of rebuttal as a defense attorney. And spoiler alert, she doesn't do any defensing of herself.
Yeah.
She doesn't ask any cross examination questions of him at all. So it's kind of moot now because we have it on the record that the defective, oh my gosh, is it that late? No, it's only 7:40 local time. The detective, now Lieutenant Hermosillo of Rexburg PD, says on the record, I identified them as Chad and Lori, and I identified them as Alex and Lori. So that's on the record, and that's unchallenged.
All right. Hold on a sec.
Right. Look, and you see the timestamp is right over that.
Now, from this angle, were you able to really tell what it was that they brought in for that second item?
Not really from this angle.
Let's go then to the inside camera view, channel 11, video 32901.
So that's enhanced right there. They're zooming in.
So is that the tire that we previously saw come out of the back of that Nissan Rogue?
That is not what we saw in court.
Mr. Daybell is rolling down into
They did not zoom in court.
They did not. Oh, so this is the camera operator zooming in.
Yes.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yes. This is not. If you go back to the original, they're way off at the end. That's what we saw in court. Like way back far away. So you see that time and date stamp? It's little bitty tiny up at the top left corner. Well, not little bitty tiny, but it's
that
right there. That's what this is. This is the perspective we see for the entire duration of this video in court.
Ah.
So it does not get zoomed in for the jury, and it does not get zoomed in for the gallery. We just see tiny figures at the end of the hallway.
Huh. Interesting.
Wow, that's very interesting. The camera operator decided to zoom in on that for you guys.
Right.
Thanks a lot, buddy. We need that too.
Yeah, he zoomed in. Do you want to watch it again, or are you good?
Yeah, no. Well, that's up to you. I think it's noteworthy that it's so different for you guys than it was for us and for the jury.
Now that's Chad, and then we have Alex. Here's Alex. Okay, let's see what he does here.
Good. I didn't want to see Chad patting her ass again.
Yeah, they didn't show that. She did, and Trina didn't mention that.
Why
if we
not?
Can go to the hallway version, channel 11, 31149.
See, that's what we see for the entire duration.
Okay.
In court.
Or does he zoom in here? I forget. Yep. Yeah.
You see two people coming in.
Kinda.
Is that going to unit C52?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize who those two people are?
Yes, I do.
Who do you recognize those two people as?
That is Lori Vallow again and her brother, Alex Cox.
You were saying?
Unless you have your opera glasses, you can't see it this way.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know you guys got to see a zoomed in version of it. That's
I just assumed either that was either Trina was doing that. Well, I guess she couldn't be doing it. I thought it was done in her presentation. I didn't think she was doing it live. I thought it was done in her presentation.
Right. Nope.
Yeah.
So we're now on October 3rd at 1:12 p.m.
Correct.
He zooms in even further. Yeah.
What does it appear?
It definitely is a lot easier to see than this.
Oh, hold on.
What? You want me to go back?
Just for that last spot of him going out the door with that bench.
Okay. Let's do it again.
That is Lori Vallow again and her brother Alex Cox.
So we're now on October 3rd.
Pause
At
it right when he's going out the
1:12
door with
PM?
that bench seat.
Correct.
Okay.
Right
What
there.
does-
So when I talked to Nate after this, I was like, Nate, what do you think the jury saw? And he said, well, when we watched this unenhanced, my team thought that that was a body with the leg sticking out. Do you see that thing like flopping off to the right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's
Could be
like, we
leg,
thought
could be
that
an
may have been
arm.
a body with legs. So he said we had to enhance that. And that's what we see later is the enhanced video that Nate did. But that looks like a leg or an arm like flopping out there.
Yeah.
What is that?
Can you imagine? Well, I guess that's the, okay, so you have the seat. Maybe he has the because the seat you have the seat and then the backing. So that's either the backing or the seat part,
Yeah, I don't know.
you know? So
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. You can kill that.
Okay. So then detect video footage. So we actually started with still photos. We didn't get to see the video right off the bat. We saw some still photos of them coming onto the site, leaving the site. Then we see the video of Lori driving to the office, signing a rental agreement on October 1st. And once again, Trina K says, so how do you recognize that's Lori getting out of that blue Nissan and going into the office, the management office? And he's like, well, because I've seen her and I've had interactions with her.
Everybody in chat is like, oh, Lori, please cross, and ask the question, how do you know that's me, detective? How do you know that's me? We're like, oh, please, open that door. Was not meant to be.
Was not meant to be. Let's see if I can find some juror comments for right now. Oh, no. Swab. We've already gone through the swabs. Okay, here we go. Storage unit video. Juror 5 and Juror 6 are taking lots of notes. Everybody is watching the videos, even Juror 9.
It's a big moment, I would think, right? That was probably one of the bigger moments in the trial so far.
Yeah. And some of them are actually like sitting forwards in their seat to like watch the video and take notes from the video.
Yeah. I think that was probably, I mean, it's a slow burn. Like Trina's just doing the slow burn, but and everybody talks about the nail in the coffin. This was probably, I think tomorrow will be the final one with Alex and his cell phone locations and everything. But these videos were pretty damning.
Yeah. Well, and accompanied by, Detective now Lieutenant Hermosillo saying, I recognize those people as Chad and Lori and Alex.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are you doing taking a tire off a Jeep? What are you doing taking the back seat out of your Jeep?
Right.
The day before Brandon gets shot at. And then the day after, you're seen putting those things back. And I mean, there's the conspiracy. There, she knew about it. She was planning it. She's organizing it. She's helping. Everything. All the alls.
She helped organize and she participated.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a conspiracy. Yeah. I honestly think this case is like 10 times more solid than the last one.
Like Charles.
You had juror number 15 saying like he was on the fence like right up to deliberations. And even into deliberations, and then he was convinced that after Trina K's closing argument. But I don't think like we could send this jury to deliberations right now and probably have a 99.9% chance of coming back with a guilty verdict.
I think if you were on the fence and you saw that, you're like, oh, come on, what do you guys what? Yeah. And then no cross on top of that, you're like, oh, come on,
Yep. Absolutely. And you're not supposed to let that influence you, but it does. I'm sorry, but we're all human beings.
How can it not? I mean, how can it not? Or then you'll be like, okay, that's pretty damning. Let me see what the defense is going to come back with the counter. Oh, she doesn't cross. Okay, let me see what the defense comes back with their case in chief. Oh, she doesn't have one. Oh, okay. So you're left with evidence clearly showing the day before they're taking the tire and the back seat out, get shot the second, then the next day. I mean, it's almost like a slam dunk at this point. But
Yep.
We shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, we've seen juries like come up with surprises in other cases.
That is true. So we're at a break at this point, the afternoon break.
Yes, 3:00 afternoon break. 3:15, we all go back in, and then we begin watching the video from October 3rd, which is when they take the tire and the seat back out.
Mm-hmm.
The Nissan enters the property. 2 people exit the vehicle. He identifies them as Lori and Alex. And Alex carries the bench and the tire out all by himself.
Yeah, he's got some muscle, whereas Chudley there has to roll it, and he has to, and Lori has to help him carry the bench.
Yes. Yep. What a man. What a man.
We were having fun with that.
Yep. And we didn't get to see Alex's hands slapping her butt.
No. Well, no, it was Chad. It wasn't Alex, right?
Yeah. No. I'm saying Chad did. We did get to see that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you said Alex. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, I did. We did not get to see that in this one.
Okay.
That did not happen.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Thank God, yeah. So I love this whole thing with this. We're coming up to the license plates, the vanity license plate. Like, I hate this about Alex. He had Homer J. Maximus, right? And then he's got this CP Quint or the C Quint, with the Jaws reference. I'm like, damn it. Why, of course, The Simpsons and Jaws. I love Jaws, and then of course The Simpsons. I'm like, why did he have to do that? Why does he have to like ruin Jaws and The Simpsons for me?
Yeah.
Because CP Quint, that is so random for a vanity license plate. Like,
right. And then we find out he's signed into different shooting ranges. Well, the one shooting range under Sequent.
Yeah. You're a little frozen, just so you know.
Am I?
Yeah.
You're frozen too.
Oh no. Are we having problem? Well, shoot.
Let me go to StreamYard.
Oh no.
Am I better now?
Yeah, you're back. Am I?
Yeah.
I think I'm good. Okay. It's a strawberry moon, right? And there were solar flares yesterday, so.
Yes. Don't ask me to sing any songs from Frozen because I've never seen it.
All right. Aaron said everything's okay out there, so maybe it was just me. All right. So, the vanity license plates, the sequel. Like, why? I've never. That just blows my mind that he dug that deep to come up with that as a vanity plate. So. I want to say I'll give you kudos for that. And I do not want to give him kudos for that, but I'm like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool, Yes.
The only thing he gets.
Huge Jaws movie fan. That's like one of the most brilliant movies as a cinematographer, as a director, as a writer. That is a fantastic movie. That just, in my mind, is just one of those just fantastic classic movies.
Yep.
So anyway.
Anyway.
Yes.
So let's see. The tire and the Jeep were in storage for about 24 hours, like immediately after the shooting incident, which is kind of interesting. And then they never used this. Well, they left some things in storage that were like kids' items in there.
Right.
There are pictures of that. Heartbreaking. Alex Cox searched and went to a shooting range several times in September. I think 3 times at least. First time he actually signed in as Alex Cox, and then the next 2 times he signed in as Sequent. Just 1 letter off of his personalized plate. Are you there?
Do you hear Super Ball snoring?
I do. I was like, what is that noise? Am I going crazy?
That's Super Ball. She's snoring. Do you hear?
I did. I was like, what is going on?
That's my cat. That's my cat snoring. Yep, the sound you hear is Super Bowl snoring.
That was loud, scary, and awesome all at the same time.
That would be our cat. She's pretty funny. All right, yeah. The burner phone. Oh,
Yep. Now we
wow.
Whoa.
Good Lord, dude, serious? That woke
She's
up
like,
Super Bowl.
She's
That's
like,
Rafa.
stop showing me. She stopped showing me on live.
No, that's Rafa. No, that's Rafa.
Oh.
That's him over here. Dude.
I went out. Dad, I went out.
He literally just came in. I'm sure he just came in. You literally just came in. All right.
He's going to argue with you. He's going to argue with you for a while.
All right. So that's what he does. Aaron will let him in on the front, then he'll come in here, meow. Then he does like these rounds, like he does like these losing rounds. It's too funny. You know, he's when he wants to eat, when he's hungry, he's like Edgar G. Robinson, where he's like, I want to eat, see? He's like, nah, I want to eat. Give me some food, see?
I get that reference. I wonder how many people in our audience do.
Yeah, he's a trip. Little Rafa's a trip. All right.
So the burner phone.
Yes.
So she starts to bring in receipts with a fake name, but the IDs match to the phone that was used in Gilbert. Lori objects on foundation. The judge pretty much ignores her. Purchase and subscriber info from Walmart matches the serial number. The track phone serial numbers match. Like they show like 3 different documents where serial numbers match this phone that was used around Gilbert. And then here's a part that maybe you can clarify for me because it went by so fast. So we get Allegiant Air records about Melani flying from Mesa to Idaho Falls on the 26th and back on the 29th. The airline provided an affidavit. Lori objects on relevance, but it's allowed in. And Idaho Falls is the closest commercial airport to Rexburg. But I don't know how that ties into the burner phone.
It didn't per se. You got everything that I got, but yeah, no, it had nothing to do with. And then she goes into Alex's Google records.
Right.
So,
yeah. So I'm not sure what those flight records had to do with the burner phone or the Google records.
Yeah.
26th, but remember the dates 26th and 29th. Those are important because important things did happen on those days, the 26th and 29th. But Lori objected on relevance, and I'm kind of also wondering what the relevance is of that.
Yeah, because it kind of came out of left field, but it shows that Melani was up there. Well, she talked earlier about the 174 unit 174 was Melani's. Right. I think she's just showing that Melani is a part of this, but it did kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe we'll figure it out later. Then we have the Homer J. Maximus account. That Detective Hermosillo obtained records from Google that were certified as accurate records. And that were relevant to the investigation of the October 2nd shooting. So this is kind of an important moment for me because he's from Rexburg and the October 2nd shooting happened in Gilbert. So we're learning that they're relevant to the shooting in Gilbert. We learn about several searches that he performed on his phone under that account. Well, it may have been on a computer too. So at this point in time,
it was not necessarily just the burner phone, but it might have been.
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
Justice is saying you guys were thinking, or at least she was thinking, they were thinking in conspiring in person right before the act.
okay. So
Yeah.
they had a chance to all get together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did kind of seem like it came out of left field. Like, I guess she could have done that at another point in time, but it did seem kind of weird because she was kind of jumping
Right.
all over with dates, I thought. But
Yes. And we got that some. I got
she
that
did.
some too.
She
Yes.
didn't go linear. She was just kind of October 2nd, September 23rd, September 29th. You know, she was a little jumpy, but
Yep.
is what it is. Yeah.
And like juror number 5, who is taking lots of notes, he can probably follow along, and maybe when they get back to deliberations, he can help everybody else like connect the dots, because he is taking a lot of notes. Speaking of which, actually, honestly, during this Homer J. Maximus stuff, the jury was not all that demonstrative in any of their reactions. Although when they get to the Google Map searches, like I see juror number 5 like slumped way down in his seat. Like he gets like way down in his seat. He's a head shorter than anybody else in the row. And I'm like, I wonder if his chair lowers that much, or if he's like actually slumped down in his seat that much. But he's not taking any more notes at that point.
Gotcha. I'm jumping ahead just a little bit, but I'm putting 2 and 2 together. So burner phones bought on the 25th. Melani comes in on the 26th. On the 27th, hold on, I just had it. Shoot. On the 27th, Alex searches for ballistic trajectory calculator. On the 27th, he does an ammo. What's the ammo? He does a search for Phoenix on the 30th. So Melani's there from the 26th through the 29th. And the minute of angle he's searching on the 27th. So while she's there, he's doing like major searching on ammo, ballistic trajectory. So they're talking, they're conspiring. I mean,
right.
So maybe that's why she put it in there.
That makes sense. It would have been nice if she'd done it linearly, like you just did. Like you had to sort it out for everybody.
Right.
And maybe she will in closing. Maybe she will. Maybe she'll be like, on September 24th, on September 25th, on September 26th, on September 27th, because it was almost daily that they were engaging in this conspiracy.
Yeah. Agreed.
So she did a really good job at the beginning of her last closing of tying it all together, as we saw from juror interviews. So anyway, so we get the Google records, we get the searches for shooting ranges, window tinting, 3875 East Phelps Drive, which was Brandon's new house. Where did he get that? Ooh, maybe the gal that flew into Idaho Falls on the 26th.
Right.
This is a certified report from Google that shows that the Homer J. Maximus account does belong to Alex. There's a direct tie in that certified report. On September 28th, there were searches for ammunition. So I'm going to rearrange this. You just kind of talked through some of them. September 23rd, places to shoot in Rexburg, tent shop, all on September 23rd. September 24th, the best projectile for long range for a Winchester mag, and other shooting related searches. And then September 28th, just 4 days before the shooting, ammunition and trajectory calculator. So I honestly think, based on these searches, that he was planning on a long range assassination attempt.
Seems like
he was planning on a long shot to take out Brandon. And in the end, he's just like, screw it. I'm just going to park in front of that white van and I'm going to take a shot out of the back of the Jeep from 10 feet away.
and hope for the best.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I mean, it's like the question that juror number 5 asked
And he
Officer
still
Rob
missed.
yesterday. Is it harder to shoot it with a rifle at a close target or a far target? And it's like
Right.
shooting at a close target with a rifle can be harder, especially with a scope.
Yep. And he still missed.
He still missed.
He still missed. Do you know what a minute of angle is, or do I have to Google that?
Okay, so a circle is 360 degrees.
Mhm.
A minute is 1/60th of that. So
Okay.
you have 60 seconds, or you have 60 minutes in a circle, and you have 60 seconds in a minute.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's 1/60th of a degree, basically.
Gotcha. All right. Makes sense.
So, oh man, I have a story I could tell you right now about that, about having to calculate angles in my mind to the degree, minute, and second. A second is a 60th of a minute. So it's a 3,600th of a degree. And there was a point in time in my life where I had to calculate those in my mind.
Quickly, or did you have time?
A minute or two.
Okay. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Under duress?
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
Just
you're
like
not
as a challenge. Just like, hey, we have this degree, minute, seconds. We have this degree, minute, seconds. What's the difference between the two?
Gotcha.
And then we have a search for on October 2nd. So this is the day of the shooting. A search for man shot in Gilbert, Arizona, and then another one including the name Brandon Boudreaux. Did you get that second question in its entirety?
Spelled wrong.
was
AVC
it?
News. Yeah, AVC News, Brandon Boudreaux, spelled B-U-D, Boudreaux.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he spelled it wrong.
So he doesn't know if he shot him or not.
Yeah, he spelled it wrong. Nobody caught that. I was like, did you guys catch that? Nobody really caught that.
It was hard to see on my monitor above my seat.
Right. I just wanted, hey, Elizabeth, we'll probably be done with the recap in just a few minutes. If you can stay awake, say another 5 minutes, or do you want to say it now, Joe, who you were in the lift with?
Oh, wait, hold on. Where are we at? Oh, on the lift. Elizabeth, are you from England or Great Britain somewhere
Yes.
by any chance?
Of course.
4:05 a.m. Oh, yeah. You're over there in the aisles. You're on one of the aisles. Either the Emerald Isle or Great Britain. Okay. So I rode down the elevator after court was recessed for the day with Nancy Joe.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't even know it. I didn't even know. I wouldn't recognize her on sight. But
Okay.
she was wearing these amazing pink high heels that were like fluorescent pink. Like she wore those into court. She came in the afternoon. She wasn't there all day. But I was driving home with Trace on the case, and I was like, I rode down the elevator with this gal with like really cool pink high heels, and she goes, "Do you know who that was? That was Nancy Joe." But I did say on the ride down the lift with Nancy Joe, I was like, I cannot believe that she didn't cross, Detective Hermosillo. And she's like, I think she's afraid of him. She thinks that Lori is afraid of him. And I couldn't disagree with that assessment. I think that may be the case.
Yeah. Were you the only two in the lift?
No, there was another gal that was with us too, and she was a gal that came into the courtroom with Nancy Joe. So it was like they came in together, they left together.
Gotcha.
And the three of us rode down the elevator together.
Gotcha. Well, now if she shows up again tomorrow or Thursday, Friday, you can.
I would recognize her next time. Yes.
You can act appropriately, act accordingly.
Right. I think I acted appropriately. She's not giving interviews to anybody right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's all
I
right.
just-
Yeah. So
yeah.
Justice says didn't realize that was her either. Wow. Interesting. How much different did she look from Charles's trial? Like, does she have red
you know
hair
what?
now?
No, not that different. But I mean, when you see a face from like all the way across the courtroom, it's different than when you're standing in an elevator with them, you know,
Yeah.
and random people showing up in the middle of a trial. It's like, I wouldn't expect that to be Nancy Joe, but it was.
Right. Did Lori see Nancy Joe? That's a quick question from D. You think?
Ooh, that's a good question, because they did kind of come in the middle of the afternoon, so there's a good possibility she did.
Mhm.
And she didn't flatter herself.
Let's see. Going back to, okay, said Boudreaux, AVC News. I don't know what AVC, what he was, ABC?
Oh my
Was he
gosh,
trying
this
to go
guy.
for ABC and Boudreaux?
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Then they get
well,
into
I'm sorry, B and V are next to each other on a keyboard. So we'll give them that. Yeah. All right.
and I make typos all the time, so
Yeah.
there's that. Then we get into Google Maps searches. On September 25th, which is when he took the Jeep into Dan's tent shop, he searched the location of Dan's tent shop in Rexburg. Then on October 1st, he searched that Los Favoritos on South Power Road in Mesa, which is a couple miles down the road from where I'm at right now. Also on October 1st, he searched 3875 East Phelps, which was Brandon's house. And then again the next morning at 7:17 a.m., he searched 3875 East Phelps again.
Mhm.
So he's searching it from somewhere on the 1st. Then he's searching it again at 7:17 a.m. before he goes to drive to it. I mean, we all know that.
Mhm.
The jury knows that.
Yep.
And then after the shooting, 9:55 a.m., he searches Arizona Farm Road. Don't know where that is. And then 1138 Pine Top Lakeside. Later, Holbrook, Arizona. Moab, Utah, which is actually a cool city. I've been there. I spent a couple of nights there, actually, a couple summers ago. Moab is a cool town and lots of areas to go visit. The Arches is right outside of Moab, Arches National Park.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
Fillmore, Utah, Idaho Falls Airport, sometime on the evening of the 2nd. She didn't do the math, so we don't know exactly. But so he's driving back up north. She pulls up a map with all of those pinpoints of those searches, so you can follow his trace. So show us your screenshot.
Oh, that's right. Let's see. 6%. Video. Just bear with me for a minute.
Sure. We are getting close to the end of the day, actually. This is like one of the
Yeah.
last things that we have come in.
Trial items. Let's see. Oh, why can't I? Must not be doing it right. Oh, let me stop screen. All right, let me try this. Present image file. Okay, here we go. Lori Daybell, Brandon, trial. Just give me one moment. I'm almost there. Alex search map. Here we go. And there we go. All right, so that's the best I could screenshot there.
So what it looks like is when he's coming out of Gilbert, he goes on the easterly route up north, and then he cuts through across Utah. So that lake that's like up about two-thirds of the way up and 1/3 of the way from the left to the right. There's a lake there. That's the Great Salt Lake. So that's Utah. So he comes up on the easterly route, and then he cuts across to the west and then goes up through Salt Lake on up to Idaho Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a pretty good visualization for the jury. I'm sure this
Mhm.
probably helped the jury figure out that, yeah, dude was
Yeah.
going back up.
Yep.
And then Detective Hermosillo said that he saw him with Lori the very next day on the 3rd at the storage unit. So that's confirmation that those are consistent with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see how she's even if she was going to provide a defense, I'm not sure how she would get her. I'm not sure what a defense would be, but I'm sure there would be one. But
You know what? I think I could present a defense for her, and I think I could present objections and other things. And I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal training at all. I just watch trials, and I think I could do a better job of defending her than she has done for herself, because she's so focused on petty little things, and she gets obsessed with trying to make a point, and
yeah,
she just loses sight of the big picture.
yep, agreed.
All right, so there's the map, and then we have the lolly time. Lolly time is last, I think.
Yeah, this was pretty big too.
Yeah. So lolly time is Lori's Google account. They got a warrant for that, and they have the results from that. Lori objects on foundation, and the judge ignores her again. The exhibit shall be entered. On August 15th, so this is barely a month after Charles has been shot to death by her brother, she started searching for apartments in Rexburg, Idaho on 565 Pioneer Road. She's already made up her mind she's moving to Rexburg. Guess who else lives in Rexburg?
Mm-hmm.
But guess who else is married with kids that she
Mm-hmm.
can't move in with because he's married with kids?
Yep. Somebody
Oh,
asked. Somebody asked in our chat, why did they just take the Jeep tire and bench over to Chad's place? I'm like, well, because Tammy was still alive.
right.
So Tammy was still alive. It was the 19th, October 19th, is when they did Tammy in.
Yep. So August 15th, searching for apartments, and then she does the USPS change of address in September. That coincides with her moving into the townhouse. Then we see Google searches on September 30th. So that's
This is a good one. Sorry.
2 days before the shooting incident, and 3 days before they dropped off the seat and the tire in the storage unit. How to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler. And also Jeep Wrangler backseat DIY video. What do you have on that?
Yeah, how to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler at 514. She visits a website.
Did you get the DIY video too?
In what way? Which one
Well,
it was?
she does two of them back to back. So she does the how to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler, and then she does a Jeep Wrangler backseat DIY video. So that's probably on YouTube.
Here, I have it right here. I can pull it up. Oh, wait. Let me just scrub through here. It's at 6:33. 6:33. Let me just scrub through here. Oh, wait a minute. That's weird. It's at a different point. Sorry, just bear with me. All right, here it is. Here, let me share this. Do you want me to play it, or do you want to just? So
Yeah.
there is. Okay. Let's see.
September 30th. We're talking just a couple days now before the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux.
That's correct.
And do we see, in fact, they visited, or she visited this site, Jeep Wrangler JK rear seat removal how to DIY YouTube video.
Yes.
And that is basically a few seconds after this first search.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. That's what I thought. A YouTube DIY video.
Yeah. Sorry, my big head was there in the way. But yeah. So she searches how to get the back seat out, and then Wrangler. What's JK? Wrangler JK rear. What's
So it's a model of Jeep Wrangler. Basically, the 2-door model, the 4-door model is the JKU. That's what I've got.
Gotcha. I mean, how much more obvious can it be at this point? I thought this was really powerful testimony from Detective Lieutenant Ray.
Yeah, and then on October 2nd at 8:13 p.m., so this is about 23 hours after the incident, she Googles Gilbert, Arizona news, and she visits the site. So they don't know at this point, because immediately after Alex took the shot, he took off, and he obviously saw the Tesla in front of him by the pool area.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned right and he went out of the subdivision out the South Road towards Pecos Way. But he honestly doesn't know if he hit Brandon or not at this point.
Yeah.
So they have to Google search it to see,
Right. I would imagine there probably wasn't any news on it, right? Because Brandon didn't die. It was just a random gunshot. I probably didn't even make the news, to be quite honest.
No, it probably would have had to been like a small town, like Lafayette, Indiana, for it to make the news.
Right.
And Mesa and Gilbert and Chandler, all of the East Valley is basically wrapped into the Phoenix news cycle. So there's so much else going on in all of that entire community that this probably didn't make the news.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
As sad as that sounds, it's just a random.
A random attempted murder. Attempted murder.
And it doesn't even make the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I've got, because she ends her direct. And does the defense have any questions? Nope. So, but here's the thing: he did not ask the jury for questions of Lieutenant Detective Hermosillo. He did not ask the jury for questions.
Wow, you're right. I totally, Oh
Is that improper procedure?
Ooh. Oh boy. You didn't hear it here, Lori, if you're watching. You didn't hear it here. Yeah, you're right.
I think he definitely should have asked the jury for questions.
Wow.
And I guarantee you they would not have had any questions, but he should have at least asked.
Right. And no jurors raised their hand and said, "Hey, wait a minute, we have a question."
Nope. They did not. Yeah. They're like, we're ready to get the hell out of here.
Right.
We're done.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I totally didn't even think about that. Jeez. Wow. Okay. You want to get to some questions before we wrap it up?
Oh gosh. We have questions? Oh my gosh, 47 questions. Holy cow. We're going to be here till midnight. No, we're not.
All right, we'll go quick. What's the consensus of Trina playing the phone recordings of Lori and Melanie?
Consensus? If she hasn't entered him in by now, she's not going to.
Okay. Rapid fire. Love always. Are there any more witnesses from the prosecution? Do you know?
Nick Balance. We got Nick B.
Susie, my curiosity is I wonder if any of the jurors are getting the idea that important things are not being talked about. Don't remember if Charles' jury had that feeling.
They had so Charles's jury had a sneaking suspicion, like it was just like a ghost of a feeling that was like there's something going on here, but they couldn't land it. And I think that's probably going on in this case too. Like, why are we not hearing from Alex? You know, why are we not hearing from some witnesses in this case? Who is this Chad Daybell character?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I would be thinking at this point. Deborah asks Joe and Chris if she's convicted, when sentencing happens, will it be life in?
25 to life. The
25 to life.
respective sentence is 25 to life for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in Arizona.
Okay. Is this might be part of the same? Another life sentence, second conviction.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. All right. Let's see. Did I miss one? I feel like hold on. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'll do this one, then we'll go back. The jury will feel terrible if they find her not guilty and then find out she was a serial killer. Yeah.
Probably, but not definitely. Like, imagine yourself in those shoes and you find out about it and you did find her not guilty. Honestly, if I found her not guilty, it would be because I felt that was the right call for that. And then to find out that she already had like 5 life sentences in Idaho and she's going to get another one. And Charles's, I mean, I don't know that I'd be all that tore up about it.
Yeah. Good
Because
point.
you got to believe in the justice system and the court system and all of the factors you have to consider in being a juror. You have a hard task as a juror.
Yeah, I agree. Andriel, is this the last of her trials? We get that a lot. A lot of people are asking that.
Yes, this is the last of her trials for sure. But she has appeals. She just filed a 64-page appeal in Idaho. And it's an interesting deep dive. I think Salty and I may do a deep dive in that on her channel.
Oh, good. Would that be this weekend or down the road?
Probably this weekend, but maybe not. I have to see what she has planned.
Okay, cool. Definitely want to watch that. KM Hope, is Lori going to cross Ray? That one's an easy one.
Well, there we go.
The answer is no. Sinbad, I heard Colby sat beside Nancy Joe today.
Colby came in before her and he didn't sit next to her for the morning session. So he came in at 11 o'clock. We had lunch at noon. And then he sat in the front row afternoon and she did not sit in the front row. So I don't think that's correct.
Okay. Drought TV Live says, I'm going to miss these dual streams.
Well, we'll have to do some more then, won't we? We will have to set something up. We'll have to get Joe boots on the ground somewhere else.
There you go. I like that. Sinbad, was Trina shocked about the third-party culprit surprise? And will we hear Lori and Melani's phone call recording? Ooh.
I don't think Trina was shocked by it. I think she was disappointed by it. She's just like, are you serious? Are you going to come at me with that? Then this changes the whole ball game. And Lori's like, oh, no, I don't want to change the ball game. Nope.
Right. But at this point, we're not going to hear we wouldn't hear the phone call recording.
Nope.
I guess, yeah. All right. Colleen, does anyone know who Lori talked to after Alex went missing? We'd love to hear that conversation. So who did Lori talk to after Alex went missing? I guess that's December 19th. Are you talking about after he died?
Did he go missing? I don't remember that Alex went missing. He had a medical event at the house he had with Zulema and Zulema's son. And Zulema's son is the one that called 911, and we have that tape.
Right.
But I don't remember Alex going missing.
Right.
After Alex missed again. So he missed the shot at Tammy, and then he missed the shot at Brandon. Okay, I'm following now.
I've totally misread that. I'm so sorry, Colleen.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, yeah.
I think I have expected to see those come into this trial, and we haven't yet. Maybe we will tomorrow with Nick Balance. Maybe we'll see some of that. If not, I don't know where they went. I don't know where that conversation went.
Trace on the case. I really wish I could sit down with Trina and ask her about all the evidence in these cases, like the FIB and is it FIB or FBI? Do you speak
don't know.
fluent Trace?
Not in this case, I don't. She missed me on that one.
And Zuzu and Melani's.
Zuzu is Zulema. We know
Yeah, I
that.
figured. Yeah, and Melani's, of course. I love all these names. Janelle, poor judge, he had his hands on his forehead a lot today.
He did. There was one sidebar, and I turned to Nate and I go, Judge B is going to get hand cramps from doing this.
Nice. Deborah asks, do you think the Arizona DOC representative that was at the sidebar yesterday was to make arrangements to transport her back to Idaho?
No. So we didn't talk about this. So first thing this morning, the transport order, forcible transport order came down from yesterday morning. So judge issued an order for her to be the same one for her to be brought into court, whatever it takes, including force. And we didn't know that yesterday morning when we had that delay and the sidebar right off the bat and the gallery got cleared out. We all assumed because it was because of medical issues. I've heard some other speculation about what it might have been. But somebody said, well, he issues a forcible transport order every day. No, he doesn't. He did on the 2nd. He did on the 4th, which was Wednesday last week. He did not do a forcible transport order on Thursday or on Friday, but he did one for yesterday. And guess what? I downloaded right before this live. He did one for today too, a forcible transport order for today. So maybe he's shifted into, he does one by default every single day. Maybe he hasn't, but he didn't do one last Thursday and Friday. Not that we have record of.
Okay. It's good to know. I think we showed this, but we'll show it again. Puzzle pieces with $4.99 super sticker.
Puzzle pieces. Awesome. Thank you.
Let's see. D asks, do you know what, this is good. Do you know what juror was smiling when they realized storage unit videos were going to be shown?
I did not see any juror smiling at that. No idea.
13th juror, does Melani still talk to Lori? Do we know that?
Not if she's smart, she doesn't.
Cindy Lou Who, I think the undercover FBI guy will shovel the dirt on the coffin that Ray Hermosillo put the nail in tomorrow. He was undercover? This Nick Balance?
I don't know that he was. I think he does from time to time go undercover, which is why they can't show his face. So you guys are not going to see his face tomorrow. I will. I will see his face. I will paint you a picture.
Nice. Sinbad, Joe, did you get one of those cookies this morning?
I could have if I had pressed the issue, but I'm not a big sweets guy. I mean, I do like cookies and I would have eaten it, but I don't just by general. No. So I didn't get one.
Gotcha. We've talked about this, but we'll ask it anyway. Carolina asks, will Lori put on a defense case? That's an easy one.
Nope.
Ooh, I got the answer. Capri Law, shape, color shifter Jeep.
Yep.
Right. Leslie says, amazing how Lori's cough seems perfectly fine all morning during her long cross and sidebars. Then this afternoon, the Shih Tzu suddenly had a hairball. That's
I
really
like that.
good.
What's funny is it took me longer to get out of the courtroom today because I couldn't find my phone. So I was the last person out of the gallery, and Lori was exiting her side door about the same time, and she was talking with her co-counsel or advisory counsel, and she coughed a couple of times when she was exiting through the side door. So she has a cough. She definitely has a cough.
Right. Sinbad, he sat next to Nancy Jo Hancock. Did Lori look at Nancy Jo? I saw her look back with a look of hate on her face. I guess she was looking at Nancy Jo.
I don't know. I can't attest to that.
Yeah.
I was not in the right position to witness that.
All right. Trace says Lori's well aware of who sits over in that family section.
Yep. I believe that 100%.
And Trace also said Colby did not sit next to Kay today.
Well, Colby came in late in the morning, and then they sat where they sat in the afternoon. I don't know how that was determined.
All right. When Colby and Kay are there, do they sit together if they can?
They have sat. Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think they have sat next to each other in the first trial.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen. This is the first time he's come to the second trial, so I can't speak to that. But in the first trial, I'm pretty sure they did sit next to each other once or twice. But why does it matter? Why does it matter where he sits and where she sits? They're there. They're there to support Brandon and to see justice done.
Right. Right. Trey says Lori knows that Nancy Jo has been there. I saw her looking over when I sat right behind Nancy. Her eyes always scan the family section.
Okay.
Okay. Leslie says, I think Lori was trying to offer up that the shooter wasn't Alex, saying they didn't test it, and maybe that cigarette belonged to the real shooter.
Of course. She's just trying to throw reasonable doubt in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, if they had tested that'd be right. That would have been, go ahead.
Why would you collect it and not test it? That makes no sense. And that's the point she made. And I agree with it.
Yeah. Child Junkies United. Do you think Lori will wait for her closing to bring up what a great person she is, since the prosecution can't bring out her history of conviction?
She's still trying to get that 404B hearing. She
Right.
thinks that if she brings it up, she'll get that hearing.
And Sure Life Creation. Do you actually think that Trina has actually gotten enough evidence of Lori being involved, not just Alex? She has shown so much about Alex and Melani, but I'm worried if enough on Lori.
I actually had that thought today, because today was all about Alex.
Yeah.
Alex. So maybe she'll do a good job of tying that in to Lori in the closing statement, but today was mostly about Alex. So, but there were videos of what Detective Fermacio said was Lori and Alex at the storage unit. So I think there's enough. I think there's enough to prove conspiracy. I do, but today was a lot about Alex. It was.
Yeah. Well, I would.
I like that question.
Yeah, I would. To add to that, not only the videos of the storage unit, but then her searches. How do I get the backseat out of my Jeep Wrangler?
Yes. Right.
Gilbert News. I mean, that's not so damning, but how do I get the back? I mean, that's pretty damning. Why on earth would you? Yeah, just why? Why would you randomly Google that?
Yep.
Trey says today Tammy's cousin came to court. She lives in Gilbert. She also knew Lori and taught JJ and Tylee in Sunday school. She brought the coolest cookies. Is that the cookies reference?
That's the cookies reference
from earlier. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Tanya asks, wouldn't Lori have to provide a witness list? If so, who? Yep. If so, who do you think is on it? Will she call anyone at all?
I think the big news from her witness list and from her subsequent subpoenas. So her witness list was back the middle of May. Her subpoenas that she tried to serve on May 30th and 31st and June 1st. The only successful subpoenas that she has served are in Weaver Barkman, who is like a forensics type of expert, and Detective Moffat from Chandler PD, actually. Not even Gilbert PD. He's from Chandler PD. Those are the only successful subpoenas. So yeah, she provided a witness list that included Melani Gibb and Zulema, and even Lonnie Dworkin was on her witness list. None of those people were successfully subpoenaed. So we're not going to see those, and we're probably not going to see the other two because they weren't even subpoenaed till like late May, which is not timely.
Right. We kind of talked about this, but we'll answer it again. Tonya, how many guns were registered? I think, 5 rifles, and then at least that handgun with Charles. So at least 6. Well, were they registered or did he just get them?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know if they were legally in his possession or not.
Right. Mel says, I, for one, am relieved to hear Melanie Pulaski is still under investigation.
Yep.
If I was her, I would not be sleeping well right now.
Nope.
Trial Junkies United. Men are more prone to red-green color vision deficiency, where they have difficulty distinguishing between these colors. This is due to the X chromosome location of the relevant genes.
Okay, that's way above my head.
Well, that was the red men
Right.
see red, more red, blue, women orangey.
Right. Right.
Janelle, does anyone know what ultimately happened to Tylee's Jeep? Ooh, I don't know.
No
that.
idea. I'm sure somebody does. But not me.
Yeah. We're down to 8 more. Okay, D. I wondered what the jurors thought when Ray said he saw toy. Oh, when Ray said, yeah. What did the jurors think when Ray said he saw toys? Yeah.
In the garage?
Yeah, in the storage unit. Or no, wait. Was it the storage
Oh,
unit?
in the storage unit. And yes, there were toys in the storage unit. Yeah, there were bikes and toys, I think, in the storage unit.
Yeah.
I wonder that too. I wonder if they even caught that, because there's so much of this stuff that just goes by and flies by us so fast.
Right. Love always. In between buying burner phones and having the windows tinted, Alex was at the Daybell property burying the children. That's probably
in between.
Let's say. So let's see. JJ was the 23rd. The burner phone was bought the 25th, I think. Right. September 25th. Purchase Walmart. September 25th is the burner phone. So, and the windows tinted were the 23rd, 24th. He calls the Daniel Moss on the 23rd, gets it done 24th, picks it up on the 25th. So, yeah. Yeah, you're probably not too far off.
Yep.
Let's see. Love always. You know, the kids know way more what's going on than adults are aware of. I wonder if the kids are scared to be with her. Oh, is this Melanie? Maybe, probably Melanie.
Yeah, that's a good question, because they've got to be conflicted, because that's mom. You know, mom is mom, and you want to be with mom. And when mom and dad split, and this is why Brandon Boudreaux was so upset and so emotional, was because that family unit was being torn apart by Lori and her chaos. And Brandon said it from the beginning, the kids are the victims in this. The kids are the ones that get hurt.
Yeah. At the beginning of this trial, I just did a quick Google search for him, and I found him on Facebook, and he lists his kids as well as his new wife's Jenny's kids, or the kids they had together, I guess.
Right.
So he's claiming ownership, obviously, or parental custody, I guess. I'm not sure what the deal is with them.
Right. I'm sure he can't wait for the investigation to proceed to the next step, whenever that is.
Yeah. So Love always, the jury has to have questions. They have to be wondering why Arizona and Idaho police are watching them, search warrants following them, have all the phone information, the mysterious incidents.
Yeah. So we've seen some more jury questions. I mean, at least we have a few now.
Yep. Let's see. Random old lady. Great handle. I do wish Lori would put on some kind of defense. I'd love to hear what she can come up with. And then Love always. Nothing seems to bother Lori. She has absolutely zero empathy, compassion, feelings, emotions.
I would disagree with that. What bothers Lori is when she doesn't get her way.
Yeah.
Which is why she has a problem with Judge Boreski. And I'm going to be posting some new documents that came down this afternoon. She has handwritten love letters to not only Judge Boreski, asking for him to be removed, but to Judge Green, who is the judge that denied her motion to have Judge Bereski removed last time. And she wants her removed too, Judge Green.
Sure. You disagree with me, you're out. Remove them.
Exactly. When she doesn't get her way, that bothers her. That's what bothers her, is when she doesn't get her way. And that's why that moment we had the other day when Judge Bereski said, get her out of court, it's because she wasn't getting her way. You know, he stood up to her.
Yeah. Erin says she's used to using her looks, and her looks are failing her right now.
I'm not going down that route. But
I want to bring this up. Love always. Did you see Ray's head jerk in Lori's direction that one time when Lori coughed or looked pissed? I don't remember that, but I do remember, I think Trina was in the middle of talking or something, and Lori started to cough, and she kind of like, she sort of stopped for a moment. I caught that. I didn't actually see this one, Love Always, but I think I do remember Trina was in the middle of something. I forget what it was, and Lori's hacking up a hairball, and she kind of like, that's brilliant. I love that. And she did stop. So, yeah. So, all right, quarter to midnight here. What do you got? Almost 9 o'clock your time.
Yep.
So, when do the Pacers and the Thunder play next?
Oh, that's a good question.
Tomorrow. They played last night, right? Or no, 2 nights ago.
2 nights ago. Yep. The Thunder evened up the series.
Yep. So probably Wednesday or tonight.
So they're going back to Indiana now.
It's travel, so they probably get an extra day, I think.
Right.
Travel.
Probably so. Yep. Scores. The Indiana Fever are playing Caitlin Clark. Thunder and Pacers on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. my time, so that's 8:30 Eastern. That is a home game for the Pacers. That is a game. Used to be called Bankers Life Fieldhouse. I don't know if they still call it that, downtown Indy.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Wednesday at 8:30. 5:30 your time. You'll be done, right? So you'll be on your way home. You could at least listen to it a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Listen to it on the way home. Watch it on the way home. But then we'll be done. So then probably the next game will be Friday. So hopefully, yeah, you'll see that. That'll be Friday night. You'll be able to catch game 4 at least. And then game 5 will be Wednesday. Sunday. I think now they go back. It used to be 2-3-2. Now it's 2-1. Wait, how's that work? 2-2-1-1-1. It used to be 2-3-2, but they changed that.
Right. It's crazy. They always got to be fixing things. Yeah. Fixing things that ain't broke.
Yeah. It's a lot of travel, but I actually don't mind it. It's more travel for the players, but I don't mind that. 2-2 and then 1-1-1. So. All right. Hey, Love Always, this is the way I feel right now. You're getting delirious. You're so tired, but I miss watching the trial. I just listened to it driving around today, so thanks for recapping everything and chatting. Yes, I get a little punch drunk at this time of night.
Right. Yep. So, I'm there, and I'm 3 hours behind you, so I'm punch drunk -3, but I'm getting there.
I know, right? All right. Joe, as always, thank you so much for your insight and your time spending with us. We love hearing from you and asking you questions and getting the insight into the court, what's happening. Do you have any last words before we let you go?
Nope. I just want to say thanks to my mods. Thanks to the people in chat. I appreciate all of you, and just keep watching, and we're going to get justice for Brandon too.
Absolutely.
We'll get there.
This is the question of the night. Trace asks, what time are we going tomorrow, Joe?
So court starts at 10:15. So that's local time. So that's 1:15 Eastern. So you guys are on a half-hour delay. So you will be at 1:45 Eastern.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. We will be starting at 1:30. We're always like 15 minutes before. But yep, that sounds about right. All All right. Yeah. Hey guys, don't forget to obviously like the channels, both channels, but make comments. Just drop, like, chatting is fantastic, but it also helps the algorithms if you just say, hey, great stream, or thanks for this, blah, blah, blah. That really helps. I know we take the time to answer. I'm sure Joe does as well. So please just take 5 seconds and just drop a comment
Right.
for us as well.
And if I don't get to your comment right away, please be patient, because I'll get there. But I got like a lot of things going on, so I can't answer every comment every time immediately. But I'll get there, and I appreciate all of the comments.
Yeah. Curvio always loves the streams, and this is good too. Yeah, D. Joe is reporting on X during the trial. You're doing lives a half hour delayed, if you will, but you're doing those on during lunchtime now, right? You're just doing lunchtime.
Well, I'm during so on X, I'm doing live updates. So I'm trying to give a play-by-play, blow-by-blow of the trial as it's going on X.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what that comment was about.
Oh,
So
okay.
that this has to do with me like figuring out better how to do, how to juggle the looking at the jury and the juror observations as well as the trial notes. So
Right.
I think since it's all electronic now, I think I'm doing a better job of doing a play-by-play of the trial.
You're doing a great job, and we like everything you post and repost some of the more important ones. So yeah, keep it up. You're doing a great job. So, all right. Well, with that, we will say goodbye to everybody again. Thank you to both of our mods. Thank you to Aaron and chat. Most of all, thank you guys for being a part of tonight, and come back tomorrow, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, and we will be here, and we'll hopefully be talking about closing arguments.
I hope so.
So, yeah. All right. With that, have a good night, Joe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay. I think I have an intro. Or I'm sorry, Nick. So you have a cool outro. We have one too, but it doesn't include Charlie.
Oh,
I know, but I'll play our outro. Oh, go ahead.
You can borrow him someday.
I love Charlie. He's so cool. Reminds me of our little Jacks. We had 2 little Jack Russells, and I know Charlie wasn't a Jack, but he just reminds me of our little Jack.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night. See you later, Joe.
Ciao.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.